If you like the story, you can support the author on Patreon, link is in the description.
Chapter 41, Iono's Gym Battle. Player, Dragon Types Rule. Current game progress, 1 batch, about to challenge Duford Gym. Current defeated NPCs, 27. Current team, Fletchling, Pidgey, Applin. If Iono had some doubts when she first saw this name. Then, when she saw the opponent's information on the game rankings, she immediately became certain of one thing. This was definitely him. That Dragon-type Elite Four member from the Kanto region, Lance. And why would she say that? Besides him, who else would use the name Dragon-types rule while filling their team with Flying-type Pokémon? The only Dragon-type Pokémon, still looked nothing like a dragon, no matter how you looked at it. Iono's expression became somewhat complicated. She never expected that this Dragon-type Elite Four member from Kanto would come play Emerald too. Maybe Cynthia recommended it to him? While thinking, Iono accidentally opened Lance's account panel. Account registration time, 9 hours ago. Play time, 9 hours. Iono? Wait, so you've been playing this game non-stop since you registered this afternoon, not even taking a minute's break? She'd thought that playing this game for most of the day made her pretty addicted, but it seemed there were even bigger experts out there. But regardless, the opponent's game progress seemed identical to hers, both about to challenge Duford Gym. And Duford Gym, as the name suggests, should have mostly fighting-type Pokémon, giving Lance with his 2 flying types a clear advantage. Plus, looking at the rankings, as 3rd place, she had dozens of players following behind her, and their game progress wasn't slow either, some had already entered Rock Cave. So she had to pick up the pace. No matter what, as a launch day player, she at least needed to make it into the top 3. The top 3 rewards weren't important, what mattered was making the list. With this thought, Iono took a deep breath and pushed open the doors to Duford Gym. After spending about 5 minutes, Iono quickly cleared out all the NPCs in Duford Gym and stood before Brawly. I might have had type disadvantage concerns with the Rock Gym before, but since this is a fighting type gym, I won't be afraid anymore. As the game entered the battle interface, Iono made her confident declaration, and Brawly sent out his first Pokémon, Combusken. Oh? Actually, one of this region's starters? Iono raised an eyebrow. Go, Pikachu! Use nasty plot! Pika Pika! With her Pokeball thrown, Pikachu's orange-yellow figure appeared opposite Combusken. His body swayed slightly as 3 huge question marks suddenly appeared above his head. Pikachu's special attack rose sharply. The move Nasty Plot could greatly boost a Pokémon's special attack level. And for Pikachu, who excelled in both speed and special attack, after Nasty Plot's boost, his electric-type moves would reach a terrifying level of power. Unless it resisted electric-type moves or had outstanding special defense and bulk, same-level Pokémon basically couldn't survive one of his attacks. And now, Combusken was moving second, clearly slower than Pikachu. In other words, as long as Combusken couldn't one-shot Pikachu this turn, then Pikachu would deal massive continuous damage to Brawly's team. Seeing the red glow shining around Pikachu's body, the corners of Iono's mouth couldn't help but curve upward. Just now in Rock Cave, it was all ground-type Pokémon with no place for this move to shine, now she could test it out on this Brawly. She stared intently at the screen, waiting for Combusken to make its move. However, at this moment, Combusken didn't use any attack moves, but instead began spinning rapidly in place. Intense airflow turned its body into a blade as dark red light flowed across its feathers. With her rich battle experience, Iono could naturally see at a glance that this was the Swords Dance move. But, what good would that do? Next turn, when Pikachu moved first with a Thunderbolt, how would it respond? However, the next moment, just as Iono was about to use a move, she noticed that the comments on her livestream screen were all laughing hysterically. The streamer doesn't know what she's about to face yet, still setting up ha ha ha. Ha 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 ha, just thinking about what's going to happen makes me want to laugh. Moment of silence for the streamer first, rip. Seeing these comments, Iono's expression immediately changed. No, don't do this, guys, you're making the streamer scared. But then she thought again. This was just a Combusken. Could it really be like Roxanne's Cradily, full of dirty tricks? Well, it probably wasn't possible, right? Iono forced herself to stay calm, but somehow she had a feeling that something terrible was about to happen. And the next moment, the scene before her made her fully understand how serious things were. As the turn ended, Combusken's body suddenly erupted with an amazing shockwave. Combusken's speed boost ability activated. Its speed level increased. Iono? At the same time, in Viridian City, in a rental apartment. Having completed today's game update content, Kairos leaned back comfortably in his computer chair and let out a long sigh of relief. With the newly acquired network module, he'd easily implemented the rankings, friends, and world chat functions. And in his remaining time, he'd completed the game content for those 2 rival battles with Wally and Paul in Slateport City. In the original, each of Paul's challenges was no less difficult than gym battles, sometimes even stronger than those of the gym leaders. This actually fit his personality quite well, pursuing ultimate strength, even frequently replacing his Pokémon partners for that goal. By comparison, Wally's challenge difficulty seemed somewhat lower. However, Kairos hadn't changed this situation, instead, it further boosted the strength of Paul and Wally's teams. After all, the resources he'd left for players in the game were much more abundant than in the original, like the water stone that Cynthia obtained was a perfect example. Now he just had to wait for the first player to reach Slateport City, to face the storm brought by those 2 rivals. Looking at the rankings, this person should probably be Cynthia, right? He wondered how many attempts it would take her to clear the challenges of this difficulty. Kairos rubbed his chin. Chapter 42, Optimistic Rewards, The Return of Litwick. As he pondered, he couldn't help but feel somewhat emotional. Thank goodness he'd slightly increased the difficulty when creating this game, otherwise, with players like Cynthia's skill level, they would probably breeze through gym battles easily. If these players progressed faster than his update speed, that would be troublesome. The current difficulty level could be said to be just right. And just as he was thinking this, a system notification suddenly popped up before him. Ding! Congratulations, host! You have received panic, surprise, shock, and other emotions from special character Iono, converted to a total of 230 emotion points, including 35 bonus points from CG. Ding! Congratulations, host! You have received shock and other emotions from Iono's live stream viewers, converted to a total of 150 points, including 20 bonus points from CG. Looking at the notification before him, Kairos froze for a moment. It seemed Iono had also already triggered that Regirock CG sequence while live streaming in Rock Cave. Perhaps she had even started challenging Duford Gym. This harvest of around 400 emotion points wasn't much, but the proportion obtainable from Iono's side was already quite low. After all, both she and the viewers in her livestream were already old friends of Emerald. This was enough to show just how much shock that Regirock CG had brought to her and her audience. At the same time, Kairos noticed an issue while Regirock's CG had successfully pushed Cynthia's emotions past the threshold to reach a new level, the same thing had not happened with Iono. It seemed the emotional threshold evaluation standard wasn't entirely based on the character's level of shock. Perhaps the emotions the game evoked had to correspond to their specific traits. For example, what Cynthia loved most were ancient myths and legendary Pokémon. Looking at it this way, raising a character's emotional threshold really wasn't as simple as he had thought. But fortunately, Kairos was confident that the game content he would create next could satisfy anyone's inner expectations and preferences. After all, this was a world filled with Pokémon and trainers. What most people were interested in would naturally be Pokémon related. While thinking, Kairos glanced at his system panel balance. Even after just buying an intermediate module, he already had over 700 points again. This feeling of spending money and having it come back was really quite nice. By now, it was already 1 AM. Kairos yawned and prepared to wash up and go to bed. However, a figure jumped in through the window beside him. It was clearly Litwick, who had been out all day and had not returned. Oh? You're back? Tired from playing? Kairos raised an eyebrow with a smile. The latter directly pounced into his arms, looking very excited. Litwick. All right, you must be hungry after playing out there so long. Come eat something first. As Kairos spoke, he took out a can of Pokémon food from a nearby cabinet, opened the lid, and handed it to Litwick. Litwick immediately jumped onto the can and buried his head, eating in big mouthfuls. While eating, he also told Kairos about everything he had seen and heard today. Litwick. This place is so amazing. There are big iron monsters running on the ground, and all kinds of colorful lights. I saw so many people. And so many guys I've never seen before. Watching Litwick's excited appearance, Kairos became curious again. Everything in the city was so novel to this little guy. What kind of place had he been staying in before? After some thought, Kairos felt it probably wasn't ultra space. So why not take this opportunity to ask? Kairos explained his question. However, after hearing Kairos's words, Litwick's excitement immediately vanished, replaced by a slightly trembling body. He seemed somewhat afraid. After brief hesitation, he still spoke up. Litwick. 3 minutes later, through Litwick's narration, Kairos roughly understood the place where he had previously lived. It was a dim world without light, vast but with almost nothing on the land. The only inhabitants were various ghost-type Pokémon. Originally, these ghost types lived by consuming a type of mist in that space, not interfering with each other. Everything was normal. But starting one day, the mist became scarcer. The ghost type's temperaments suddenly changed drastically, becoming constantly enraged and extremely vicious, attacking and even devouring other ghost Pokémon. Under these circumstances, the weak Litwick could only hide every day, daring to forage only when the surrounding ghost types had dispersed. However, in this way, Litwick could never eat his fill, spending every day in fear and anxiety. As he spoke, Litwick's body began trembling violently, his eyes welling up with tears, as if he were about to cry at any moment. Clearly, those terrible days had already become a shadow in his heart. Seeing this, Kairos paused for a moment, then stepped forward, held Litwick in his arms, and patted his body, his tone gentle and serious. "Don't be afraid. You're my partner now. From now on, no one can bully you. I promise." Litwick stared at Kairos blankly, his trembling finally calming somewhat. After a moment, confirming that Litwick's emotions had completely stabilized, Kairos spoke again. "So how did you suddenly come from that space to my place?" Litwick began narrating again. One day, just when he was dizzy from hunger and about to give up, a whirlpool suddenly appeared, directly sucking him out of that space. When he opened his eyes again, he was already in Kairos's room. "A whirlpool, hey?" Hearing this, Kairos became thoughtful. It did sound somewhat like an ultra wormhole situation, but he was certain that place definitely wasn't ultra space. If so, what exactly was the place Litwick had been living in before? He pondered for a moment, opened his phone, and searched for information like ghost-type Pokémon gathering places. An official Alliance news article caught his attention. "Citizens, please note, ghost world fluctuations have been increasingly intense recently. When encountering ghost-type Pokémon in the city, please immediately call the city emergency number to contact professionals for on-site handling." Kairos immediately raised an eyebrow. Ghost World? Chapter 43, The Ghost World Coffin, Paul's Challenge. After looking at the news content for a while, Kairos roughly understood the ins and outs of this so-called ghost world. Generally speaking, it was a special space that existed independently from reality, containing a large number of ghost-type Pokémon. In recent years, just as Litwick had described, the ghost Pokémon inside had somehow begun rioting, with groups of them escaping into the real world from time to time, causing injuries to people and damage to cities. According to the news, they left the ghost world through special passages that connected the two realms, appearing in the real world. Such passages were distributed around cities in various regions, and there was a sizable ghost world passage near Viridian City, where he was currently located. Seeing this, Kairos understood why Litwick had suddenly appeared in his room. It seemed Litwick had probably emerged from the ghost world passage near Viridian City. He closed the news interface and searched further, finding that the ghost world passage near Viridian City had shown anomalies 2 days ago. The League had therefore increased security around nearby cities, even dispatching elite trainers to support Viridian City against the riots. Even so, some small towns near Viridian City had been attacked by ghost-type Pokémon, though fortunately, there were no casualties. Similar situations were occurring worldwide, and with increasing frequency. Kairos clicked his tongue. It seemed this Pokémon world wasn't completely peaceful either. Fortunately, with the League's presence, ordinary citizens' safety could still be somewhat guaranteed. Speaking of which, his luck was pretty good too. The Litwick he encountered was actually a ghost-type Pokémon that didn't want to harm humans. The more Kairos thought about it, the luckier he felt. He took out another can of Pokémon food from the cabinet and opened it for Litwick. "Eat as much as you want, I've got plenty. If you want to change flavors, just tell me. Money's no problem for us." Litwick nodded in seeming understanding and buried his head in the food. Meanwhile, Kairos watched him, lost in thought. Regarding becoming a trainer, he really wasn't interested. His current income from making games was enough for him and several Pokémon to live happily. But this ghost world news reminded him of one thing: the world he was in wasn't entirely safe. To live peacefully, having the ability to protect oneself in emergencies was important. With that in mind, his gaze fell on the 5 miraculous candy gift boxes in his system inventory. Why not just use all these candies on Litwick? After all, Litwick was his only Pokémon right now, so only he could use them. They couldn't be given to others like the other 5 sets. After brief consideration, Kairos decided to hold off for now, not rushing to feed them to him. According to the game's mechanics, this item had different effects based on a Pokémon's current level. The higher the level, the better the effect. And Litwick was still in his developmental stage. Using all the miraculous candies at once would be somewhat wasteful. Better to wait until he grew a bit more, then feed them to him. With that thought, Kairos stretched and headed to the bathroom. It was getting late, time to wash up and sleep. Tomorrow, he'd set out with Litwick. Night deepened. The lights throughout Viridian City dimmed, and the city fell quiet. Everything looked peaceful and serene. However, at the city's edge, dozens of kilometers away in a suburban clearing, a massive deep purple whirlpool was suspended in the air, constantly emitting black mist that quickly dissipated, looking ominous. Around the whirlpool, dozens of trainers wearing league uniforms watched it intently, their expressions both grave and fatigued. Clearly, they had been guarding it for some time. Beside them stood powerful Pokémon one after another. Leading them was a woman with long, dark blue hair. Everyone, please stay alert. Today should be the last night of this ghost world tide. Once any ghost-type Pokémon appear from the passage, subdue them immediately. I know you're all very tired, but whether for protecting citizens' safety or for the rewards the League is giving us, we must push through this final moment with all our strength. Her latter statement was obviously more effective than the first. As soon as she said it, everyone's eyes lit up, they straightened somewhat, and looked up at the whirlpool. Most of these people weren't official League trainers but had been temporarily called in due to the emergency. For them, the reason they stood here was purely the generous compensation the League offered. Just then, the whirlpool suddenly began shaking rapidly, with deep black mist pouring out. Wailing howls arose, sending chills down their spines. Something seemed about to emerge. Everyone, prepare for battle. At the same time, in the ghost world. This was a grey space with neither sun nor moon. The black earth was dry and cracked, stretching endlessly. Under the crimson canopy, a figure emerged from a shadow on the ground. It was a man wearing a mask and cloak. He pointed forward, and the surrounding air shattered like bubbles, revealing the place's true appearance. A deep black coffin dozens of meters high stood quietly before him. It was wrapped in countless golden, wrist-thick chains, with dense incantations on its surface flickering with faint light. All of this seemed to be binding whatever was inside. Above the coffin was a massive claw mark, bearing fresh red traces that made one shudder. The cloaked figure glanced at the coffin and raised his hand again. A golden magic circle burst forth beneath his feet. The symbols and patterns matched those on the coffin, but the light was more dazzling and carried a sacred aura. The man carefully checked the surrounding magic circles. After confirming everything was correct, he stared at the coffin for a moment, sighed softly, and turned to leave. The air became blurry and distorted again, concealing the massive coffin. But just as the last piece of void closed, a barely perceptible sound rang out. Crack! Something had broken. The next morning. Hone region, Rustboro City. Today had rare good weather. Roxanne pushed open the doors of Rustboro Gym, looked up at the clear sky, and her mood immediately brightened. Weather like this was perfect for slacking off. Today should also be a day without challengers, right? Thinking this, she prepared to move a lounge chair out from the gym to sunbathe and spend the day leisurely. But then she noticed something wrong. She was surrounded by a large crowd of trainers, dozens of people. Why were there so many people at Rustboro Gym's entrance today? The moment they saw Roxanne, they swarmed up, raising pokeballs and pokedexes, competing to challenge her. The gym's open. I'm first. I was here first. Please accept my challenge first. Miss Roxanne, can I challenge that Liliup and Archon? Yeah, let us see. Roxanne? Archon? Liliup? What were they talking about? At the same time, in the Sinnoh region. Cynthia was in a good mood because today she had rare free time with no emergency missions. Naturally, she would use it to advance in Emerald. As usual, she started her live stream, then launched the game. Tens of thousands of viewers immediately joined. Whether it was her imagination or not, ever since she started streaming Emerald, her viewer count had been significantly higher. It seemed everyone was interested in this game too. Good morning everyone, it's Emerald again today. She smiled and greeted the chat, but froze at the game's notification pop-up. She hadn't expected the game to update again last night. This update's content was enhancing CG realism? Cynthia's expression became strange. When watching that Regirock CG sequence yesterday, even her consciousness had been deeply drawn in. And now this update said it had further enhanced that realism? What would that be like? Suppressing her curiosity, she read the second update notification, understood the content, and opened the rankings. A series of prompts appeared about weekly ranking rewards and indicators. Like Iono, Cynthia wasn't interested in rewards. She only wanted the game creator's contact information. After skimming the prompts, Cynthia checked the progress of other players. She froze. The player ranked first wasn't her account Strawberry Ice Cream, but Dragon Types Rule. That incredibly familiar name, she'd recognize it even if it turned to ash. When did Lance start playing this game? And, how was his progress faster than hers? She checked Lance's profile. Number 1 Dragon Types Rule. Current game progress, 2 badges, arrived at Slateport City Beach. Current defeated NPCs, 35. Current team, Fletchling, Pidgeotto, Grubbin, Magikarp, Horsa. Registration time, 19 hours ago. Playtime, 18 hours 50 minutes. The live stream erupted. Registration time, equals playtime? Drago Knight, you crazy guy. Too insane, he probably only slept 10 minutes ago. You can tell he really loves this game. Seeing the nearly identical play and registration times, Cynthia suddenly felt relieved. No wonder his progress was so ridiculous, he'd powered through an afternoon, evening, and all-nighter. Even sleeping just 10 minutes ago. Tisk, this guy. She shook her head. Clearly an Elite Four member, yet still capable of such childish behavior. But then, that was exactly the kind of thing Lance would do. Well then, time to reclaim first place. Cynthia's gaze sharpened as she entered the game. Originally, she'd wanted to fish, but considering last night's fishing experience and her need to catch up, she boarded Old Man Hatchie's boat to Slateport City. Slateport was a coastal city connecting to Moly City in the Hone region. It was full of harbors, with cruise ships arriving daily. As Old Man Hatchie's boat docked, Cynthia thanked him and walked up the beach. After a few steps, several trainer NPCs with exclamation marks appeared to challenge her. As before, their difficulty wasn't high. After Cynthia defeated them, her team's overall level increased by 2. In this game, even Pokémon that didn't participate in battle gained most of the experience. Now, Ludicolo was level 22, while Grovel and Stufful were both level 21. Just as she was about to leave the beach, a figure jogged up to her. He wasn't tall, with purple hair, dark sportswear, and an unsmiling, cold expression. I saw you defeat quite a few trainers. As my target today, you'll do just fine. So, prepare to battle. Amid rousing music, Pokeball icons flashed. The battle was about to begin. Chapter 44, vs Paul, at least let me heal up first. As the intense battle music kicked in and the game transitioned to the combat interface, a notification popped up in front of Cynthia's screen. Strong trainer, Paul has challenged you to battle. Seeing this, Cynthia immediately shifted into serious mode. From her experience with this game, she knew that this kind of dramatic battle music and notification only appeared when facing powerful opponents like gym leaders or major rivals. In other words, this NPC was most likely going to be a tough opponent. Meanwhile, the chat was buzzing with questions. Paul? Who's that? Never heard of him before. Has he appeared in the game? No idea, probably just some random roadside NPC. Doesn't look too strong. I wouldn't be so sure. Everyone who shows up this way in this game is serious business. Absolutely. Emerald doesn't mess around with weaklings. While everyone debated the identity of this sudden challenger, Cynthia browsed through her team and ultimately chose to send out Ludicolo, who had the best type coverage. Paul followed suit, tossing out his Pokeball. His lead Pokémon appeared. It was a Pokémon with a body covered in orange lightning patterns and plug-like protrusions on its head. Electabuzz, an electric type. The protrusions on its head could discharge tremendous electrical power, and its physical strength was formidable. Among electric types, it ranked among the top in offensive capability, making it extremely popular. On the first turn, Cynthia initially wanted to use Mega Drain, but after brief consideration, she switched tactics and selected the move Fake Out. Since Ludicolo was a water/grass type and didn't fear electric attacks, maintaining field presence wouldn't be a problem. Whether the opponent chose to switch Pokémon or have Electabuzz attack, Fake Out would connect and force them to lose a turn, a guaranteed win either way. Following her command, Ludicolo waved its hands, and a massive purple energy palm materialized out of thin air, striking Electabuzz hard. Electabuzz's body clearly stiffened for a moment. Electabuzz flinched. It didn't turn into a red light and disappear, but took the hit solidly, proving Paul hadn't chosen to switch Pokémon. So on the second turn, Cynthia directly chose Mega Drain to trade blows with her opponent. Electabuzz's potential moves like Fire Punch or Ice Punch couldn't threaten Ludicolo, so there was nothing to worry about. However, the next moment, something unexpected happened. Electabuzz's Choice Scarf boosted its speed. Electabuzz used Volt Switch. Electabuzz's body transformed into a golden flash, striking Ludicolo hard and knocking off a third of its HP bar before turning into red light and returning to its Pokeball. The replacement that came out was a Pokémon with a hard shell, its back covered with rocks and plants, resembling a turtle Grotle, the evolved form of Turtwig from the Sinnoh region's starter trio. Normally, Cynthia felt a special fondness for this Pokémon. But appearing here? Not so much. Against Ludicolo, its dual typing created perfect defensive synergy, neither water nor grass type moves could deal super effective damage. Combined with its exceptional durability, this was going to be troublesome. Sure enough, just as Cynthia expected, when Ludicolo's Mega Drain hit Grotle, the latter's HP bar dropped by less than a quarter. Then, a familiar scene played out. Grotle's body glowed with a brilliant white light, restoring a small portion of its HP. Grotle's leftovers restored some of its health. Come on, does everyone have leftovers? Cynthia felt helpless, but after quick calculations, she made her judgment: even with leftovers, Grotle would eventually lose to Ludicolo. Its durability was incredible, but its offensive power was lacking. And Ludicolo didn't fear grass or ground moves. Plus, Mega Drain's healing far outpaced leftovers. With her assessment made, Cynthia once again selected Mega Drain. Dark green light emanated from Ludicolo, struck Grotle, and returned as light particles. If Ludicolo weren't at full health, these particles would restore its HP. But Grotle wasn't planning any war of attrition. Instead of attacking, it retracted all four limbs into its shell, flipped backward, and began spinning rapidly in place. Dark grey light with red effects surged across its body. Grotle used Swords Dance. Its attack sharply rose. The chat exploded. Wait, Grotle can learn Swords Dance? So much for honest attrition. What's with the sudden setup? Leftovers and Swords Dance? That's some quality gameplay, buddy. That guy was right, Emerald doesn't mess around. Cynthia looked on with a complex expression. Swords Dance was one of the strongest physical attack boosting moves and extremely difficult for bulky Pokémon to learn. Was this proof that many Pokémon people thought couldn't learn it actually could? Or was it just because this was a game? Either way, she didn't have time to ponder. A +2 attack Grotle was a huge threat to Ludicolo. Switching Pokémon was unwise. Neither Stufful nor Grovel could defeat it in 2 turns, and a boosted Grotle could devastate both. There was only one solution. Cynthia took a deep breath and clicked the top right corner, restarting the game. These past 2 days had taught her one thing: sometimes giving up isn't shameful. Unlike real battles, game battles could be retried endlessly. The cost? Remaining perpetually broke. She logged back in and re-entered the battle. This time, when Electabuzz's Volt Switch brought in Grotle, Ludicolo didn't attack, it danced. Ludicolo used Teeter Dance. Grotle became confused. Yes, Cynthia had replaced Bubble Beam with Teeter Dance, a 100% accurate confusion move. But confusion alone wasn't enough. On the next turn, she commanded Zen Headbutt, combining its 20% flinch chance with confusion to greatly reduce Grotle's odds of attacking. It worked. Grotle flinched, then hit itself in confusion. Though it managed to use Swords Dance later, its HP was already too low. Ludicolo finished it off and even restored all the HP lost to Volt Switch. At this point, victory was leaning toward Cynthia. Paul had only 3 Pokémon Grotle, Electabuzz, and 1 more. When the last appeared, Cynthia frowned slightly. Froslass, the Ice/Ghost Pokémon. Luckily, Ice moves were neutralized by Ludicolo's typing. Cynthia decided to use Teeter Dance again, but Froslass moved first. Froslass used Confuse Ray. Ludicolo became confused. Ludicolo hurt itself in its confusion. Even after dealing with Grotle, this fight was still challenging. 2 minutes later, after losing Ludicolo and most of Stufful's health, Cynthia finally won. Paul reappeared, snorting coldly. I lost this time because my Pokémon were too useless. Next time, I'll definitely come back with stronger Pokémon for revenge. Just wait. The chat erupted. What's wrong with this guy? Loses and blames his Pokémon. How does he have the nerve to call himself a trainer? Exactly. I thought he had skill, but his character is garbage. Go streamer. Next time you meet him, knock his teeth out. Cynthia knew there were 2 kinds of trainers like Paul. Those who blamed their Pokémon to avoid admitting their own incompetence. Those who pursued ultimate strength replaced any Pokémon that couldn't keep up. She found both unacceptable. The most important thing was the bond with your Pokémon. Lost in thought, she prepared to head to the Pokémon Center until she realized her character couldn't move. Music blared, and a familiar figure approached her rival, the black-haired boy. Oh, what a coincidence, strawberry ice cream. You're here too. Since our eyes met, let's battle. Cynthia? Look, I'm fine with battling. But at least let me heal my Pokémon first. Who fights back-to-back battles like this? Chapter 45, Slateport City cleared, Team Aqua's attack? What gave Cynthia a bit of a headache was that her battle with her rival in Slateport City was just as intense as her earlier fight with Paul. Not only had her opponent's Torchic successfully evolved, but the other Pokémon on their team were also formidable, 4 in total. With Ludicolo already defeated and Stufful's health severely depleted, Cynthia naturally had no chance of victory. She had to restart and challenge Paul again. Since it was a gauntlet battle, maintaining her team's condition for her rival was crucial, especially Ludicolo, her main powerhouse. Only he could easily handle her rival's highest level Combustion. And given Paul's team strength, this was no simple task. Finally, after half an hour and countless attempts, Cynthia managed to defeat Paul with minimal losses and face her rival. Even then, the match was intense. With only Grovel remaining, Cynthia managed to activate the Overgrow ability at critical health and take down her rival's final Pokémon, Loudred, securing victory. In this battle, Cynthia showcased her skills to the fullest, making timely defensive switches against her rival's 4 Pokémon and perfectly timing Grovel's health to trigger Overgrow for the finish. Everything seemed within her expectations. Clearly, she was adapting to Emerald's difficulty and approaching battles with the serious mindset befitting a champion. After defeating both her rival and Paul, Slateport City's beach became accessible to Cynthia. She first visited Slateport's Pokémon Center to restore her team's health, then returned to the beach to search for obtainable items. She found a pearl, an Aqua Ring trademark, and received soft sand which boosts ground-type moves from a nearby child. Of course, Cynthia didn't skip the challenge in the small house on the left side of the beach, where she could get 5 free fresh waters. After all this, her team's Pokémon reached level 25, the current stage cap. Cynthia decided not to linger and prepared to continue toward Moly City to the north. But just then, she triggered a new storyline. A group of Team Aqua members blocked the northern passage. From the nearby Slateport Museum came a tremendous commotion. What's happening now? She reacted immediately, directing her character toward the museum. Inside, she found a group of Team Aqua members knocking down staff and forcing their way inside. In the stream chat, viewers couldn't help but comment. Team Aqua again? They sure appear often. Makes sense. The most famous criminal groups in Hone are Team Aqua and Team Magma. That means the developer basically provoked several criminal organizations. That's bold. +1, hope the developer stays safe. Amid the chat, Cynthia entered the museum. It seemed to be hosting a technology exhibition, but the visitors had all fled from Team Aqua's sudden attack, leaving it nearly empty. Only one staff member remained, who rushed over when he saw Cynthia. You're a trainer, right? Please help us. Those guys went straight to the director's office on the second floor. I think they're after his belongings. I understand. Leave it to me. Cynthia's gaze sharpened. Even in real life, she would intervene in such situations, let alone in a game. Team Aqua, as their name suggested, used many water-type Pokémon. Both Grovel and Ludicolo could deal super effective damage against them. These Team Aqua members were weaker than Paul and her rival, just slightly stronger than Gym NPCs, so the upcoming battles weren't difficult. 5 minutes later, in the director's office on the museum's second floor. Damn it! Where did this brat come from? How dare you interfere with our plans, I'll remember you. 2 Team Aqua executives had been defeated by Cynthia, their faces flushed with shame and anger as they retreated. Then, a figure walked into the office. The moment he entered, a powerful aura emanated from him, making Cynthia focus intently. She had only felt this around incredibly strong trainers like other league champions who unconsciously emitted a unique presence in battle. This man's identity was likely anything but ordinary. She studied him carefully: stern features, blade-like beard, deep blue bandana, and tight V-neck clothing that exposed a muscular chest. On his head was a white emblem, a hollow circle with 3 protrusions. Team Aqua's symbol. Cynthia's thoughts raced. In reality, she had dealt with Team Aqua before. The higher their rank, the more fanatical they became. But the organization was extremely secretive, cautious to a frightening degree. The League had little information about them, less than a tenth of what was known about Team Rocket. Their base location, leadership, and goals, almost all of it was unknown. Could this game give her information on Team Aqua? Even a little would be valuable. But given their secretive nature, would the developers even know much? As she pondered, the man looked at her and spoke slowly. Hello there, little lady. Nice to meet you. I'm Archie, leader of Team Aqua. Our goal is to expand the ocean until the world is engulfed in giant waves. We will create a new civilization on the remaining land. You're young but skilled, so I'll ask, are you interested in joining us? Cynthia? Meanwhile, thousands of kilometers away in a secret island chamber, the real Archie, who avoided leaking information and always warned his subordinates to be cautious, sneezed. Achoo! Why do I suddenly have a bad feeling? Back in the game, Cynthia was stunned. In her experience, Team Aqua was mysterious and cautious. Yet this leader had just revealed their entire plan on sight. That speech was only missing what color underwear they wore. In any other game, she would have dismissed it. But Emerald was different. Everything was remarkably faithful to reality. If Team Aqua's situation here was real, that could be a serious problem. She couldn't be sure whether this Archie was really their leader or if what he said was true, but she memorized everything to report to the League. Seeing her silence, Archie said, I see you lack our grand ambitions. What a pity. He snapped his fingers. A blue light shot toward the museum director, then returned to the pokeball at Archie's waist. When the ocean drowns the world, remember the invitation you refused today. With that, Archie left with his executives. Cynthia frowned. She had expected a battle. But as Team Aqua's leader, his strength likely far exceeded hers. To him, she was just a child. She turned to the director. Their goal had probably been achieved. Sure enough, after checking himself, the director's expression darkened as he collapsed. Oh no, it was still taken. Cynthia quickly helped him up. Are you all right? What was taken? I'm fine, but the museum's most precious document was stolen by that man's Pokémon. They were blueprints for an advanced submarine that Slateport Shipyard spent 10 years developing, capable of withstanding extreme ocean depths. Now those guys have them. Cynthia was stunned. A submarine? Did they plan to go deep into the ocean? But for what? She couldn't tell yet, but Archie's words gave her a bad feeling. Do you have backup blueprints? Yes. But having such technology in their hands is unacceptable. The director sighed, then brought up the designs on a nearby computer. These are our submarine blueprints. We were going to start construction this month. Cynthia looked at them and froze. Though her specialty was archaeology and mythology, she understood enough to be shocked by the technology. Amazing design, this whole structure should greatly reduce underwater pressure, right? The director's eyes lit up. Oh! I didn't expect someone so young to know submarines. You're absolutely right. He explained excitedly, then remembered something. Right, young lady, I haven't introduced myself. I'm Stern. Thank you for helping me, you're the bravest child I've met. To thank you, please take this. He handed her a small box. This gemstone was found during deep-sea operations. Our machines detected powerful energy, but we don't know its effects. I think you'll like it. I hope you can unlock its secrets. Cynthia opened it to find a transparent, light blue sphere with brown and reddish spiral patterns glowing faintly, a work of art. A golden notification appeared before her. Ding! Congratulations, player, you have obtained a special item, Swampert Mega Stone. Chapter 46 Big Brother, don't you need sleep? Looking at the prompt in front of her, Cynthia froze for a moment. Swampert Mega Stone? What was this thing? Her gaze fell on the item's description. A special stone unique to Swampert. In certain scenarios, it might unleash incredible power. So this thing should be Swampert's exclusive held item, or tool. Cynthia pondered aloud. Either way, the golden prompt proved this item's effect should be extraordinary, but the problem was that to make it work, she'd need to have a Swampert first. And Swampert was the final evolution of Mudcup, one of the Hone region's starter Pokémon. Given the current game progress, Cynthia really didn't know where to find a Mudcup. She could only store this stone in her backpack for now. However, thinking about it carefully, Marshtomp seemed like it would be a great addition to her team. Since she wanted to build a rain team centered around rainy weather, water-type Pokémon would naturally fit right in. Moreover, Swampert also had ground as its secondary type, which could resist many attacks while countering electric, poison, rock, and steel types. Along with its excellent typing, Swampert was also a Pokémon that excelled in both physical and special attacks, with decent bulk. In the real world, many trainers raised them, either developing them as tanky warriors or pursuing unique builds focused on maximum burst damage. If there was one weakness to mention, it would probably be speed. This was indeed somewhat unfortunate, its massive body moved sluggishly. But in the game, the speed issue wouldn't be as significant. After all, being a little slower or much slower both meant going second anyway. With this thought, Cynthia shook her head slightly and made a decision: she'd try to find a suitable Mudcup to catch later. Speaking of catching new Pokémon, both Paul and her rival now had 4 Pokémon each. In this situation, battling them with only 3 Pokémon would become increasingly disadvantageous. New gym leaders would likely have 3 or more Pokémon as well. As the game progressed, the trainers she'd face would naturally have more and more Pokémon. It seemed she needed to consider catching new ones. Cynthia thought it over. Her core team was already basically formed. Stufful, Ludicolo, and Grovel could handle most situations. But if she was going to continue building a rain team, then Pokémon capable of summoning rainy weather would be crucial. Among such Pokémon, there actually was one good option. Her thoughts returned to when she'd just taken Old Man Brinny's ferry, sailing across the ocean. Whether from Petalburg City to Duford Town, or from Duford Town to Slateport City, she'd seen one particular Pokémon multiple times in the cutscenes. Wingull. This Pokémon's typing was water and flying, and its final evolution, Pelipper, could learn the rain dance move that summoned rainy weather. And for some reason, in the real world, this species learned the move incredibly quickly, as if they had a natural talent for it. She wondered how they'd perform in this game. Plus, her team really didn't have any flying types, so catching a Wingull would fill that gap too. With this thought, Cynthia made her decision. She'd head back to the beach and look around to see if she could catch a suitable Wingull. But just as she was thinking this through, a sound pulled her consciousness back to the real world. Her phone on the desk started ringing. Someone was calling. When she looked down, she discovered the caller was none other than Professor Oak. Could it be that the information she'd given him had been verified? Regarding the abilities of Loaded and Stufful, Cynthia was actually quite curious about whether it was true or false. She immediately muted the stream's microphone and answered the call. Soon, Professor Oak's excited voice burst through the phone. "Little Cynthia, is that game you're playing called Emerald? Send it to me, I want to play too." This statement left Cynthia stunned for several seconds before she snapped back to reality. "Professor, what's gotten into you? Why so suddenly?" In Cynthia's mind, Professor Oak had always been a stable, experienced, and knowledgeable elder, ever since she was young and even now. But now, she rarely saw him display such excited emotions, and moreover, in her opinion, he should have absolutely no interest in electronic games, right? According to his own words. Rather than immersing yourself in those virtual games, you'd be better off spending time exploring the mysteries of Pokémon. There are still many puzzles waiting for this old man to uncover. Professor Oak's hurried voice came through the phone again. Why? Because I drew that Cradley you mentioned and sent it to the lab. They compared it with our current data and found it matched perfectly. The Archon you mentioned, we've also discovered ancient fossils that look similar. As for Stufful and Loaded, we happen to have quite a few of these two species in my research lab. After comparative testing, we found that in simulated rainy environments, Loaded's movement speed indeed improved significantly, while Stufful was indeed quite afraid of fire-type moves. Also, I sent those ancient text translations to the archaeology department. In less than a day, they've already worked through the night to decipher over 100 symbols. That's more progress than the past few years combined. So that game might bring even more useful information. How could I miss such a game? Cynthia was stunned again. She hadn't expected Professor Oak to work so quickly, verifying the ability-related answers in such a short time. But Professor, don't you have several important projects on hand recently? In a daze, she suddenly remembered something and asked instinctively. If she remembered correctly, his recent research projects were all major tasks assigned by the League, quite important, and requiring his personal guidance and control. Over the past few months, he'd basically been busy with them, investing considerable effort. Logically, now should be the critical period for those projects. But after asking, she regretted it. Between the two, there really was no comparison. Sure enough, faced with Cynthia's question, Professor Oak didn't even hesitate. Oh. Those projects are important, but how could they be as important as this game? Think about it: ancient fossils, legendary Pokémon, hidden abilities, and various items we've never seen before. The value of this information compared to a few projects, which is more important? This old man can certainly tell the difference. Besides, didn't you say that whoever clears this game first can get the contact information of the game's creator? Quick, send me the game. I'm already sitting at my computer. Oh, and tell me, how exactly do you play this game? Honestly, seeing this elderly scholar and research legend asking her how to play a game felt pretty weird to Cynthia. But she dutifully told Professor Oak all the information related to Pokémon Emerald and sent him a game link. Then she heard his surprised voice through the phone. Such an excellent game for less than 6,188 yen. The price is so cheap. It's hard to believe. After all, an official encyclopedia costs over 8,250 yen. Cynthia paused at this, forcibly suppressing her urge to explain game market pricing to him. And honestly, before playing, she'd definitely thought 5,940 yen was expensive. But now, after several days of gameplay, she felt like selling it for only 5,940 yen was practically charity. Getting it was pure profit. While she was thinking, Professor Oak's voice came again. Little Cynthia, how's your game progress? Cynthia answered honestly. I'm about to head to Moly City. That's where the third gym is located. Good, keep up that momentum. We must get that game creator's contact information. I'm going to play the game now. Keep it up. With that, he hung up. Cynthia turned her microphone back on and refocused on the screen. She'd finished searching for items around Slateport City and completed both rival battles, so now it was time to head to the next city, Moly City. She moved her game character past Slateport City, and a large bridge appeared ahead, stretching into the distance. However, just as her character reached the bridge, a prompt suddenly popped up. The area ahead will be explored later. Note: the game will update Moly City content before 12 p.m. today. Please wait patiently. Thank you for your cooperation. Cynthia froze. She suddenly remembered something. This game was just a test version released at the New Game Festival. It was only because the gameplay experience was so good, the completion level so high, and the update speed so amazing that she'd gotten the illusion this was already a finished product. Thinking about it, it was kind of scary. Was this really the quality a half-finished test game should have? With this thought, Cynthia shook her head slightly and glanced at the time in the bottom right corner of her screen. Still 2 hours until 12 p.m. So, should she play Battle Road for a while? There was an old saying that fit perfectly: without comparison, there's no harm. After thinking about it, she realized that after playing Emerald, she'd completely lost interest in Battle Road. Just these past few days, she hadn't even logged in once for a daily check-in. Because in comparison, Battle Road's gameplay couldn't even match this pixelated turn-based game. Well, might as well find a movie to watch with the stream audience while waiting for the update. With this thought, she addressed her viewers. Since Emerald won't update until 12 PM, why don't you all help me pick a movie to watch together? It's been a while since I watched a movie with everyone in the stream. She opened the stream's voting feature, letting the audience decide. While waiting, Cynthia absent-mindedly picked up her phone to scroll through it, only to discover her social media app had a whopping 999 plus notifications. Only then did she remember that she'd been completely absorbed in Emerald these past 2 days, either doing tasks or playing without even checking the Champion and Elite 4 group chat. She opened the social app called Coco Chat with an Aaron icon and immediately saw private messages from 2 people. 21 hours ago, don't call me fire type explosion head. Cynthia, you seem really busy with tasks lately. Nobody can reach you. If you have time, drop by the group chat. 20 hours ago, dragon types are the best. Dragonite scratching head.jpg, Cynthia, do you know a Battle Road high-ranking player called Decent Person? I matched with this guy today when playing Battle Road. His tactics were really interesting, even I fell for it. 18 hours ago, dragon types are the best. Dragonite looking pitiful.jpg, never mind about that guy. Cynthia, how do you beat Roxanne's gym? Her 3 Pokémon are more ridiculous than the last. I've been stuck for almost an hour. When did the Hone region get such a strong gym leader? How did I not know about this? 10 hours ago, dragon types are the best. Garcomp pondering.jpg, so the Pokémon in that cave was Regirock? Interesting. 2 hours ago, dragon types are the best. Hakamoo dancing.jpg, I cleared Brawly's gym. I'll temporarily take that first place position. Except for the first message asking about Decent Person's identity, Lance had sent 7 or 8 messages to Cynthia about playing Emerald. Seeing these messages, Cynthia couldn't help but facepalm. This guy, where was his dignity as an Elite 4 member? She opened the chat box and started typing a reply. About this Decent Person. I really haven't heard of them. I haven't been on Battle Road these past 2 days either. I'll ask those high-ranking players to help you find out when I get a chance. But you. Why did you suddenly start playing Emerald, too? After editing the message, Cynthia sent it. She didn't expect Lance to reply, since he'd been playing for over 10 hours straight and should be catching up on sleep. But to her surprise, his message came right back. Dragon types are the best. I went to the group looking for you that day, and they said you were playing it, so I said I'd try it. Turns out it really is fun, way better than Battle Road. Cynthia paused. Why wasn't this guy sleeping yet? But maybe he'd just finished washing up and was about to sleep? To be safe, she sent another message asking about his situation. Ice cream lover, you've been playing so long, aren't you going to sleep? However, Lance's reply came quickly. Dragon types are the best, ugh, don't even mention it. I'm on a mission in a secret realm right now. Was playing just fine when the league suddenly called me out. So annoying. Not gonna chat anymore. There's a Snorlax ahead that just attacked us. I'm gonna beat it up to blow off some steam. Talk later. Cynthia? So you weren't tired from playing 10 minutes ago? You got called for a mission? Lance, do you seriously not need sleep? Chapter 47 Moving and Promotion. After a morning of traveling, Kairos smoothly moved into his new home. Although he really wanted to visit other regions and enjoy the scenery, he ultimately chose to stay in the Kanto region. On one hand, he was more familiar with Kanto, and on the other, if you weren't a professional trainer, traveling to other regions required a visa. While obtaining such documents wasn't particularly difficult, it usually took 1 to 2 months for them to be processed. Even so, Kairos was quite satisfied with his new home in Kanto. It was a standalone villa beside the Agate River, the largest waterway in Cerulean City. The surrounding natural environment was excellent, with flowers everywhere and several streams flowing not far from the front door. Rare water-type Pokémon like Corphish and Wooper could even be spotted in these streams. Combined with the villa's own exquisite little garden, the scenery was captivating. Even Litwick, visiting for the first time, couldn't help but light up with curiosity, glancing left and right at the beautiful surroundings. At this moment, Kairos stood in the backyard, admiring the view and letting out a sigh of admiration. Having money is really nice. Litwick. Litwick. Although Litwick didn't understand what Kairos was sighing about, it raised its head and called out twice in agreement. Kairos stretched lazily. Villas like this came with a full housekeeping team, which had already taken care of everything inside: utilities, internet, and so on. Back in his study, he reopened his laptop. Its specs were honestly mediocre. When making small games before, it would freeze constantly, causing data loss and making frustration a daily occurrence. If not for the system's assistance, completing the past few days' workload on this computer would have been nearly impossible. "I'll buy a top-spec computer later and replace this old thing," he muttered, opening the web's largest forum Pokémon network. While moving earlier, he'd suddenly received a notification that he'd gained over 600 emotion points from online forums. He knew there must be new news about Emerald. Sure enough, posts about Emerald were exploding across the forum. Discussions about Regirox CG were everywhere. Shocking! Mysterious legendary Pokémon appears in cave. A game CG can reach this level. Is a gaming revolution coming? These posts naturally included videos from Iono and Cynthia's streams showing the Regirox CG segment. Kairos had previously asked the system and learned that, when viewed via streaming, Regirox CG could project its real pressure onto viewers. Downloaded videos, however, would greatly reduce that effect. Even so, replies under these posts had quickly climbed into the thousands. "Hey? It's that big? Is this really a Pokémon and not a sculpture? Since when do sculptures have glowing eyes and an aura that can scare people to death through screens? This is game CG? Are you sure it's not live footage?" After briefly scanning the comments, Kairos switched to check his game's backend. Game sales had reached 50,000 copies and were approaching the 60,000 mark. Just then, the system's notification popped up. Ding! "Congratulations, host, you have completed the new S-rank side mission Wild Sales. Mission requirement, achieve total game sales of 50,000 copies within this week. Mission rewards, random intermediate module, 1000 emotion points, special item rare candy gift box ×5. Distributed." Following convention, a module draw card appeared before Kairos's eyes. He skillfully selected and used it, the card instantly vanished. This time, however, the new module was unprecedented, glowing with colorful light. Kairos paused slightly as colorful text floated before his eyes. "Congratulations, host, you have obtained the special intermediate module Easter egg button. Description: this module can be activated for any game you create. Once activated, it will randomly add thousands of different Easter egg contents to the game, and you cannot directly learn their contents. Special module bonus: when any character generates emotion points from game Easter eggs, points gained increase by 100%. The rewards provided by these Easter eggs have a certain probability of slightly affecting game balance, but will conform to the game's worldview, content, and style, improving the game's entertainment value. Activate this module for the game Pokémon Emerald." Looking at the prompt, Kairos hesitated. Easter eggs were indispensable for a mature game, but if they couldn't be known in advance and could affect balance, adding them required caution. After a brief thought, he decided to activate it. The module promised only a slight effect on balance, and given Emerald's difficulty, it shouldn't be a major issue, especially with doubled emotion points from Easter eggs. A rainbow data stream appeared over the game folder, forming a hidden document that quickly vanished. Kairos didn't search for it. The system had said he couldn't know about it, so it likely couldn't be found. Players would naturally share any Easter eggs they discovered. He then turned to the other mission reward, 10 small pink gift boxes, each holding 5 blue candies, half dark blue, half light blue. These were the legendary rare candy. Picking up a box with dark blue candies, a prompt appeared. Please select the character you wish to gift to. Kairos planned to distribute these as rewards to top-ranking players during the weekend's leaderboard settlement. At the current pace, first place would be either Lance or Cynthia. He was curious to see how much these candies could improve champions and Elite Four members' Pokémon. Half of the gift boxes could only be given to others, the rest he could keep. As he put away the last box, Litwick waddled over, eyes fixed on it, drool at the corner of its mouth. "Litwick? Litwick? What's this? It smells so good." Kairos was surprised. He hadn't expected Litwick to like sweets. He thought ghost types only cared for special foods and souls. Patting its head, he explained, "These are candies, but they have another use. They can make you much stronger all at once. But using them now would be wasteful. Let's wait until you've grown more for maximum benefit. If you want candy, I'll buy you some." Litwick reluctantly nodded. Kairos kept his word, ordering several Pokémon-specific candies online. Just after paying, another notification appeared. Ding! Congratulations, host, you have received a new side mission. S-rank side mission, Sales King. Mission requirement, within 15 days, achieve 300,000 sales for any game you've created. Mission rewards, A-rank special item box ×1, invitation card ×1, 2000 emotion points. His gaze fixed on the black invitation card. Special system item, invitation card. Allows you to invite any existence to play your games through mental projection. Note, consumable, duration unlimited after use, but the invited must still purchase the games. Any existence? Pokémon 2? Kairos quickly asked the system if Pokémon could generate emotion points by playing games. The system confirmed, noting that special Pokémon would produce far more points than normal ones. Special people included top trainers like Cynthia and Lance, research giants like Professor Oak, and celebrity gym leaders like Iono. Special Pokémon, could that mean legendary Pokémon? The thought made his palms sweat. Finding them was one thing, convincing them to play was another. Some were notoriously unfriendly toward humans. Asking them casually to try his new game might get him vaporized. Better to take it slow. Champions Pokémon and mythical Pokémon might also count as special. Still, with only one card, he couldn't experiment much. The mission itself was simply a more difficult version of the previous one, 300,000 sales in 2 weeks. Even with Emerald's strong reputation, natural traffic likely wouldn't be enough. He'd need a promotion. Fortunately, money wasn't an issue. With nearly 60,000 copies sold, he had over 10 million yen on hand. The villa had cost only about 4 million. Opening his browser, Kairos searched for reputable game promotion companies, found one, and opened the chat. Wind, hello, I have a pixel game that needs promotion. The response was quick. Morning promotion, hello, what type of game is it? Is it currently a test version or an official release? Wind, battle type, test version. The other party seemed hesitant. Morning promotion, if it's a test version, promotion costs will be higher, and pixel games don't promote as effectively. Are you sure? Wind, sure. Morning promotion, we have a 3,091,995 package, or 4,122,660 and 6,183,990 options. The representative sighed inwardly. Pixel game clients usually had small budgets. Still, money was money. He began typing about a cheaper 2,061,330 yen package. When a massive transfer notification appeared. Wind, transferred 41,226,600 yen. Promotion budget isn't a problem. The more people see it, the better. I've already created the ad, feel free to use it. A video file followed. The man clicked, and a magnetic, almost enchanting male voice filled his speakers, accompanied by stunning visuals. Have you ever thought about becoming a Pokémon trainer? Comment. 1 comment. Vote. Chapter 48, 48, Litwick's determination, Lance's discovery. Meanwhile, in Cerulean City. After Kairos paid the promotion fees and sent the game advertisement CG he'd just made to the other party, he closed the window. Given this game's recent popularity online, combined with the promotional video he'd just created using system technology, it should provide a boost and quickly elevate the game's sales to another level within 2 weeks. As for whether it could reach 300,000 sales, that would just depend on his luck. Of course, his instincts told him this shouldn't be a problem. While thinking, another notification suddenly popped up before his eyes. Ding! Host, please note, emotion points from the previous time period have been calculated. Host has received emotion points from Cynthia, Iono, Lance, and Professor Oak, totaling 670 points. Host has received emotion points from game players, totaling 723 points, including 150 point CG bonus. Current emotion points balance, 2,769 points. Seeing this, Kairos couldn't help but raise his eyebrows slightly. As game sales increased, the emotion points provided by players were clearly starting to gradually increase. But Lance had started playing Emerald yesterday. He knew about that. How had Professor Oak started, too? It should be because he'd become interested in some information that Champions or Elite Four members had shared with him from the game, which generated emotion points, right? After all, at his age, there's no way the old man would personally play Emerald, right? That must be it. Kairos tapped his palm, making his conclusion. Speaking of which, the current emotion points balance has reached as much as 2,800 points. He directly opened the collection module system and chose to purchase the last key module. Emotion Rendering Module, Intermediate. Function, automatically generates corresponding emotional screen tones by reading player heart rate data, red tint when anxious, cold blue when sad, increases music compatibility with slight key changes. When players experience intense emotional fluctuations due to the game plot, emotion points gained increase by 50%. This module cost Kairos a full 2200 emotion points, but it was worth it. After all, the upcoming standard mode would be most important for providing players with tremendous experiential immersion through the game's story content, making them unable to break free. Looking at the emotion rendering, pressure manifestation, and advanced CG modules in his module area, Kairos rubbed his chin. Now he only needed one last module, Soul Music. Once he'd gathered enough emotion points to purchase this final module, Emerald could add standard difficulty. In the current Maniac mode, Kairos had deliberately simplified the game's original story content, focusing instead on the battle experience between players and NPCs. Standard mode had a completely different focus. Standard mode's most important aspects were player experience and immersion. Achieving this required quite a few methods. Moreover, these modules he'd previously collected and was now purchasing could be universally used in other games in the future, definitely not a loss. As for now, Kairos glanced at his computer screen. These next few days, he'd focus entirely on updating Maniac mode, completing the main storyline, then put all his effort into creating standard mode. He took a deep breath, opened the files, and instantly entered a focused state. While Kairos was seriously creating his game, outside Cerulean City. Drago Knight, use Hyper Beam. Boom! A searing white light cut through the air, precisely hitting a withered claw extending from a vortex, directly forcing it to retract. After that deep purple vortex trembled violently, it slowly disappeared into the air along with the black mist beside it. The dark clouds in the sky instantly dispersed and cleared up. Sunlight poured down, illuminating the earth as if nothing had happened. Everyone, good work. A middle-aged man with a Drago Knight beside him turned to look at the group of trainers behind him, sighing slightly as he spoke. This was the person who had just given commands to Drago Knight. Anyone could clearly see his face already showed several signs of fatigue. Having fought here continuously for so long, he was indeed exhausted. The other people and Pokémon around him also looked quite bad, with many disheveled and wearing tattered clothes. The Pokémon were all covered in wounds, panting heavily, clearly having just gone through a tough battle. However, everyone seemed relieved now because this spirit tide had finally ended. Little Mar, report, did any escape? The middle-aged man turned his head toward a tall, thin woman wearing glasses. The woman pushed her frames and picked up a notebook. There should only be one. It got out during those two strongest spirit tides this morning and at dawn when we were short-handed. But its aura wasn't strong. We estimate it should be around gym leader level. Also, when it was escaping, I saw it get hit by old Lee's Blastoise's hydro pump. It should be badly injured. Upon hearing this, the middle-aged man's expression immediately changed. After a long moment, he sighed softly. An injured gym leader level, that's still a huge threat to civilians, even elite level would be. But we've already done our best. Report this truthfully to the League and have them strengthen nighttime patrol security. These matters are no longer our concern. He said this while glancing toward Cerulean City. Sigh, I hope no poor soul runs into that thing. According to the game's flow, after crossing that bridge from Slateport City to reach Moly City, there would be many places to explore around the city. For example, the roads and small towns to the left of the Moly Gym, the beach to the right, and even the old power plant below that could be reached using surf. After challenging the Moly Gym, above the city, there was also a vast desert, a cave filled with high temperatures and flames, and 2 mountain cable car routes. In short, there was quite a lot of game content to create around this city. Fortunately, after several iterations of creation, Kairos had become quite skilled. After several hours of work, he successfully created all this content and uploaded it as an update. Of course, uploaded along with it were the thousands of random hidden Easter eggs brought by the Easter egg module. After finishing all this, Kairos didn't rest but continued hunched over his computer, creating the maps, storylines, and NPC content for Fall Arbor Town and Meteor Falls. By the time he finished, it was already 8 p.m. He saved the game content and let out a long sigh of relief. After working so long, he was really tired. He'd reward himself with a day off tomorrow. It was Saturday anyway. If he crossed over to another world and still worked on games every day without even weekends, how would that be different from having a regular job? Oh, wait, regular jobs might even have 2-day weekends. He patted Litwick's back on the desk. Good night, Litwick. Bath time, then sleep. 15 minutes later. After washing up, Kairos had already collapsed on his bedroom bed and was fast asleep. Litwick sat beside his bed, staring blankly at Kairos. It had been less than 2 days since meeting this human, but its life had completely changed. Endless delicious food, comfortable and spacious living quarters. It didn't need to venture out fearfully to forage, nor constantly watch for attacks from other Pokémon. All of this had been brought by this human. No, as his Pokémon, it couldn't just enjoy all this for nothing. It had to do something. For instance, become stronger so that when danger came, he could protect him. With this thought, Litwick's eyes showed determination. It jumped down from the bed and walked outside the house. Under the moonlight, a small figure began gathering purple energy in front of itself. Let's turn back time 10 hours. Cynthia was sitting in front of her screen, watching a movie called Pikachu and Chikorita with her stream audience, when her phone suddenly rang. It was a reply from Lance. Dragon types are the best, finally finished that damn mission. Cynthia, you should have reached the 3rd gym by now, right? Give me some strategy tips? Mini Dragonite tearfully begging. JPG. Cynthia paused for a moment before picking up her phone to reply. Ice cream lover, the 3rd gym city isn't open yet. Let me challenge it first. Speaking of which, are you really okay staying up this long without sleep? Dragon types are the best, of course. I don't have many talents, but I'm especially good at staying up all night. Charizard smug. JPG. Ice cream lover, alright then. Since that's the case, I have another matter I want to discuss with you. Do you know about Team Aqua? Upon reading this, Lance's emoji-laden messages suddenly stopped. Dragon types are the best, I know about them. Why are you suddenly asking about this? Before becoming an Elite Four member, he'd actually already been a secret league enforcer. Being a secret enforcer was an extremely special identity, also a secret unknown to the general public. He often represented the league in carrying out secret enforcement missions. In the league's judicial domain, Lance's identity and prestige were quite high. Now, after bringing up Team Aqua, Lance had obviously immediately become serious. Ice cream lover, it's like this today, I encountered Team Aqua's leader. Dragon types are the best. Ice cream lover, don't panic, I met him in the game. Dragon types are the best. Several minutes later, Cynthia barely managed to explain the game storyline she'd experienced today to Lance. Ice cream lover, given this game's previous performance, I think you might need to report this to those old folks and have them investigate. Although Cynthia, as champion, held a significant position in the league, investigative tasks related to dark organizations were obviously better left to professionals like Lance. However, at this moment, Lance seemed somewhat skeptical. Dragon types are the best, Cynthia, I don't think you need to be so nervous. Maybe this is just a storyline the game created itself, not necessarily real. Cynthia's response was very firm. Ice cream lover, no, Lance, this isn't just a game. On the first day I encountered this game, I had Emma help me investigate the creator's identity, only to discover his identity was in a classified information database that even he couldn't access. Besides that, this game recreated everything about fossil Pokémon that even Professor Oak's team couldn't restore, demonstrated new Pokémon abilities that the research community hadn't discovered, and even placed ancient texts that the Hone archaeological team had been stumped by for 10 years as puzzle games in caves. The submarine blueprints I saw in the game today. Honestly, that was an ingenious design I'd never imagined. Additionally, as you've seen, he also knows about legendary Pokémon like Regirock and even Rayquaza. Even Steven's performance in the game is identical to the real person. So, even though I find it hard to believe, I think these things might all be real. Because everything in this game seems real. Faced with Cynthia's series of explanations, Lance fell silent. Even someone as carefree as him, carefully recalling the details Cynthia mentioned and his own gameplay experience, realized where the problem lay. It seemed like this game had indeed never made anything up. After a moment, Lance spoke again. Dragon types are the best, I understand. I'll report this immediately. If there's new information, I'll contact you first. After sending this message, Lance directly picked up his phone and made a call. Harika, help me look up someone's information. This person is called Archie, male, should be a middle-aged man. A female voice came through the phone. Okay, boss, I'll search right away. Please wait a moment. Found him. Excluding 2 females with the same name, there is indeed such a person. But this person's identity records are from 30 years ago. I've sent you the file, boss. You can look at it yourself. A notification sound rang, and a file immediately appeared on Lance's phone. He opened it to see a handsome, refined young man's face in the file. From appearance alone, nothing stood out. After all, decades could completely change someone's appearance. But the 2 lines at the bottom of the file made Lance freeze completely. Pokémon calendar year 1277, September 3rd, went missing after boarding a cruise ship from Moly City in the Hone region. Status remains unknown to this day. Birthplace Hone region. Going live tomorrow afternoon at 6 p.m. Chapter 49, Moly Gym Battle. Looking at the information displayed before his eyes, Lance couldn't help but frown. All this information matched up too perfectly. Could there really be such a coincidence in the world? Could it be that this Archie was really, as Cynthia said, the leader of Team Aqua? After brief consideration, he ultimately made his decision. Since things had come to this, he might as well report everything to the League and have them send people to investigate further. If they really did discover traces of Archie and confirmed he might be Team Aqua's leader, then their plan might be real too. Making the oceans swallow the entire world. Thinking of this, Lance's expression grew serious as he opened his phone, preparing to compose a text message. But just then, he ran into a problem. How was he supposed to explain the source of this lead in a text? Tell them he discovered it from a game? The higher UPS would definitely think he was joking. Meanwhile, as Lance was pondering, Cynthia, who was watching a movie with her stream audience, immediately opened the game. An update notification box appeared before her eyes. Version 0.05 released. Today's update content is as follows. 1. Added Moly City and surrounding left/right areas, the small town west of Moly City, and improved tunnel maps. Added desert area above and fiery path map content. 2. Opened Moly Gym challenge. 3. Added emotion rendering effects to the game. Cynthia briefly scanned through and nodded. Although she didn't understand what that last emotion rendering effect meant, she could tell this update's content was quite massive, probably adding and opening many map areas. That meant she could continue playing for a long time. With this thought, Cynthia directly chose to log in and re-enter the game. Crossing the bridge before her, she soon arrived at Moly City. In the real-world Hone region, Moly City was an important industrial hub with many power plants and factories built around it. Almost half of the Hone region's electricity was supplied by Moly City. Correspondingly, the city lacked any homey atmosphere. But the Moly City in this game was quite different from her impression. While several large power plants were indeed situated around it, the town itself had everything: game corner, bike shop, Pokémon Center, and other buildings. From time to time, pedestrians walked by with Pokémon, smiling. This didn't seem like an industrialized city, but more like an ordinary town. Cynthia went to the Pokémon Center to restore her team's condition, then directly pushed open the Moly Gym's doors. No matter which town she arrived in, she always prioritized challenging the gym first, because only this way could she continuously advance the game's progress. The interior of the Moly Gym also surprised Cynthia. After entering, the surrounding light was extremely dim, but ahead were several walls of flickering, intense electrical currents, blocking challengers' progress. From the current situation, with these walls in place, there was no way to enter the gym's depths. But Cynthia quickly discovered a small switch panel at her feet. When she moved her character to step on it, all the electrical walls before her changed shape, creating a path forward out of thin air. Seeing this, she seemed to understand the Moly Gym's rules. Cynthia looked around and indeed saw a new switch button not far away. But beside this button stood an NPC wearing golden clothing. This scene repeated in every corner of the Moly Gym. It seemed players wanting to challenge the gym must first defeat these NPCs to gain the right to control the switches. Through repeated attempts, players would eventually find a path through this electrical maze to reach the gym leader. 10 minutes later, Cynthia had completely defeated all the Guardian NPCs throughout the gym and, through repeated adjustments, passed through layers of electrical walls to reach the gym leader's position. Here stood a massive throne crackling with electrical current. As Cynthia approached, a figure rose from the seat and walked down. It was a short, elderly man with graying hair and a beard. He looked quite aged. However, his eyes shone brightly, and his every gesture carried a confident aura. This person was the Moly Gym leader Watson. He was also Moly City's founder. All the power generation equipment in Moly City had been built by his hands. Throughout the Hone region, he was considered a legendary figure. Cynthia had only heard of this gym leader before but had never met him personally. She hadn't expected their first meeting would be inside a game. At this moment, Watson looked at her and burst into hearty laughter, his cheerful voice echoing through the gym. You know? I originally wanted to further renovate Moly City, but seeing everyone already accustomed to city life, I could only use my time and ideas on the gym instead, creating that electrical door maze. So, how did you get here? You actually solved my puzzle? Hey ha 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 ha, interesting. Smart young people like you are rare. Well, I'm Watson, the Moly Gym leader. Let me show you the power of electric-type Pokémon. Pokeball icons flashed across the screen, and amid exciting, uplifting music, the gym battle was about to begin. Following gym battle convention, Watson first sent out his starter Pokémon. Go, Reishu. However, upon seeing that Pokémon's appearance, Cynthia froze. Reishu Pikachu's evolved form she naturally recognized. But why did this Reishu look somewhat different from what she remembered? While it had the same dark brown fur and round build, this Reishu's body size wasn't that large, instead resembling Pikachu's somewhat. Not only that, but its ears, fur, and tail were also completely different from a normal Reishu. Why would this Reishu have this appearance? As Cynthia carefully observed the Reishu in surprise, a prompt displayed on the screen forcibly pulled her thoughts back. Please choose your Pokémon. Only then did she remember she was in the middle of a gym battle. Whatever, she'd finish the battle first. Cynthia scanned through her team and made her choice. Ludicolo, I'm counting on you. Today's launch, please support with your first subscription, good brothers. Chapter 50. Watson says nothing, just keeps using Thunderbolt. Bonus chapter, for reaching 800 power stones. Although Ludicolo has the water type, which should normally be weak to electric attacks, his secondary grass type perfectly covers for this weakness. With moves like Teeter Dance and Fake Out in his arsenal, he's clearly better suited as a lead Pokémon in this kind of battle compared to Grovel. No matter what situation arises, he can handle it flexibly. As Ludicolo takes the field, the battle officially begins, entering the first turn. Cynthia doesn't hesitate and immediately chooses Fake Out. When in doubt, lead with Fake Out. You can't go wrong. Why pass up free damage? Don't underestimate this slap. It doesn't just interrupt the opponent for one turn and deal some damage, it can also break through items like Focus Sash. And sometimes, that tiny bit of extra damage makes all the difference between victory and defeat. As a qualified trainer, every detail in battle must be utilized and considered thoroughly to fight for victory with everything you've got. But the next moment, as she inputs her command, golden electric sparks suddenly begin dancing across the battlefield beneath both Pokémon's feet, shrouding the entire field in crackling electricity. A series of system notifications pop up one after another. Electric terrain has risen from the ground. Electric type moves have been powered up, and all Pokémon are now protected from falling asleep. Reishu's Surge Surfer ability activated, his speed has been greatly boosted. Reishu used Fake Out. As Reishu swings his claws, a massive pair of claws formed from purple mist slams hard into Ludicolo, leaving him stunned in place. Ludicolo wanted to move, but flinched. The very Pokémon who wanted to use Fake Out to interrupt his opponent ended up getting slapped senseless instead. Watching the game screen, Cynthia's mind starts racing. What the heck is electric terrain? If it were weather, she could understand that. But this so-called terrain, she's honestly never heard of it before. This terrain effect looks somewhat similar to weather conditions, seemingly providing specific boosts for certain types. But there's another point that's even more important. This Reishu in front of her is definitely not the kind of Reishu she remembers. This Surge Surfer ability is completely unheard of. So what exactly is going on here? As Cynthia ponders, the chat is actually sharing her confusion. Can someone explain what electric terrain is? Damn, how does this old guy come with his own battlefield buff? That's totally cheating. This Raichu looks so weird, and he's actually faster than Ludicolo. Raichu was always fast, genius. Plus, didn't you see his ability doubled his speed? Isn't this kinda like Ludicolo's ability? Is this like an electric-type version of Swift Swim? Amid the discussion, Cynthia inputs her command for the second turn. Giga Drain. Fake Out only knocked off some of Ludicolo's HP, no big deal. The key now is figuring out this Raichu's moveset and how his stats differ from a regular Raichu. As the second turn begins, the opposing Raichu naturally moves first, intense electricity gathering around his body and forming a powerful current that strikes straight at Ludicolo. Raichu used Thunderbolt. Raichu held Magnet, boosted the power of his electric-type move. In the crackling light, Ludicolo's HP bar rapidly drops to below half, beginning to flash dangerously yellow. Immediately after, countless green light particles gather and flash around Ludicolo's body, striking back at Raichu. This move only dealt about a third of Raichu's HP in damage, and the returning energy barely pulled Ludicolo's HP back above half. Cynthia immediately makes her judgment and decisively chooses to quit the battle and restart. The chat is instantly confused. Hey? Why'd she stop fighting? That was a quick retreat. Taking advantage of the game restart, Cynthia speaks up. The goal of the first challenge is mainly to gather intel on the gym leader's lead Pokémon. From those 2 turns, we can see this Raichu has excellent special attack and speed. At the same time, Ludicolo's Giga Drain didn't deal much damage, which proves one thing, he probably has pretty outstanding special defense too. But conversely, physical defense must be his weaker area, because it's hard for an ordinary Pokémon to excel in all 6 stats. The more outstanding the performance in certain areas, the weaker they tend to be in others. Hearing Cynthia's explanation, everyone finally gets it. I see. As expected of a champion, even playing a game is this professional. You said ordinary Pokémon can't excel in all 6 stats, but what about that legendary Pokémon lying in the cave earlier? Could it manage that? Don't know if that thing has perfect stats, but I can tell you one thing, once it wakes up, it could punch a hole straight through this Moly Gym. +1. As the audience discusses, the game successfully restarts, and Cynthia begins her challenge against Watson again. This time, she doesn't lead with Ludicolo, but sends out Stufful directly against that Raichu. Since the opponent has outstanding special defense but weak physical defense, Stufful is obviously a pretty good choice. Although Grovel resists electric types, his physical attack is just too low. In comparison, Cynthia ultimately chose Stufful. Plus, in this battle, the situation might be reversed from the rival battles. Grovel, who resists electric attacks, is actually the key unit whose condition needs to be preserved. After Stufful enters the field, he naturally takes a fake out from Raichu, his HP bar dropping by 1/5. Cynthia isn't surprised by this and has him use focus energy directly. But when the second turn begins, golden electricity surges around Raichu's body, suddenly blasting toward the opposing Stufful. Raichu used Thunderbolt. Critical hit. Before Stufful can even attack, he gets knocked out by this one move. Cynthia. This critical hit mechanic, who came up with this setting? It feels kinda anti-human, doesn't it? Reluctantly, Cynthia has to restart the gym battle once again. However, the subsequent gym challenge process remains far from smooth. To sum it up in one sentence, Watson says nothing, just keeps using Thunderbolt. That Raichu kept spamming Thunderbolt, and the Manectric that came out next also kept using Thunderbolt. In her most successful attempt, with only Grovel left, Cynthia managed to see Watson's third Pokémon, Magneton. But then Grovel got unlucky and was frozen by a tri-attack that triggered the freeze effect. After multiple failures, Cynthia has realized a serious problem. Her gym battle is so difficult, not just because the opponent has one more Pokémon than her, but because of that electric terrain. Thunderbolt already has decent power and a chance to paralyze her Pokémon. Combined with the electric terrain's power boost, if her team doesn't have a ground-type Pokémon, the opponent will keep recklessly attacking with Thunderbolt. But based on her past experience, even if she catches a ground-type Pokémon, Watson probably has countermeasures to cover that weakness. Cynthia can't help but feel a headache coming on. The chat is also discussing this right now. Damn, this gym is pretty tough, doesn't look easy to beat. For real, this old guy looks all cheerful and friendly, but how does he turn into the Thunder King once battle starts? I think this guy's different from every previous gym leader. His Pokémon don't have any strategy or synergy, just pure offense and raw stats. Sometimes brute force breaks all techniques, I guess. After the 6th battle restart, Cynthia doesn't continue challenging Watson but walks straight out of the gym. After consecutive failures, she feels she needs to take a breather and think through her strategy properly. Currently, she's got a rough idea of all 3 of the opponent's Pokémon configurations. There's the special reissue holding a magnet with weak physical defense but outstanding in all other stats. The Manectric is holding a citrus berry for HP recovery with still amazing special attack. And a Magneton that knows Steel-type moves with an unknown held item. Plus 1 mysterious Pokémon that hasn't appeared yet. After organizing the available clues, Cynthia plans to explore the nearby area first. According to the update notes, there are large areas to explore both left and right of Moly City. Maybe she can add a new Pokémon to her team to counter Watson. Preferably, a ground type. Though Watson might have countermeasures, having a ground type is definitely better than not having one. At least she won't get hit by Thunderbolt 7 or 8 turns in a row. With this thought, Cynthia looks left and right. The left side seems to have a small town, there should be more places to explore there. So she heads toward the left side of Moly City. But she hasn't taken many steps before stopping in her tracks, raising an eyebrow slightly. A blooming garden appears before her eyes. And in that garden, there's clearly a figure that looks like a little hedgehog. That seems to be a Pokémon she's never seen before. Chapter 51 A Mysterious Pokémon? Field Battle. Unlike the special reissue she encountered in the gym battle just now, Cynthia can be certain she's never seen anything remotely similar to this Pokémon before. As she instinctively moves her character forward, a sudden breeze sweeps through the flower field, and the colorful blooms sway back and forth, blocking the spot where that Pokémon was standing. When the flowers settle back into place, the area Cynthia was watching is completely empty. Did you guys see that? Cynthia can't help but address the viewers in her live stream. See what? I saw it. I think I saw a green Pokémon, but for some reason it suddenly disappeared. I saw it too. I thought I was seeing things. So what Pokémon was that? I don't think I've seen it before. Cynthia furrows her brow slightly, but then suddenly notices something. On the ground where the little hedgehog-like creature was standing, there's a faint, flickering glow, barely noticeable. She moves her character closer, and a prompt suddenly pops up before her eyes. Something seems to be buried in the ground. Do you want to dig it up? After Cynthia selects yes, an object immediately appears before her. It's actually a flower. This flower is hexagonal, pale red in color, and pulses with pink light like breathing. Obviously, the glow Cynthia saw earlier was coming from here. But the next moment, this flower suddenly withers rapidly in Cynthia's character's hands, its light dimming and finally disappearing. The petals turn to powder and scatter into the air. But that's not all the flower leaves behind: a small red seed in her palm. You have obtained a special item, Grass Idea Flower Seed X1. Seeing the system prompt, Cynthia pauses for a moment, then suddenly remembers something. Grass Idea Flower? The name sounds familiar, like she's heard it somewhere before. But when she tries to think carefully, she can't quite remember where. After a moment of contemplation, she shakes her head slightly and puts the flower seed into her bag. Since the system indicates this is a special item, she'll keep it safe for now. Perhaps this flower has some connection to the Pokémon she just saw? And her intuition tells her it probably wasn't an ordinary, common Pokémon. As Cynthia prepares to stand up while thinking, she notices that in the nearby flower bed, after that breeze passed, some of the previously neat flowers have fallen over in disarray. She thinks for a moment, inputs a command, and has her character go forward to help those flowers stand upright again, restoring them to their original state. The owner of this flower field clearly takes great care of these blooms. In that case, she might as well lend a helping hand. But the next moment, just as Cynthia turns to leave, a girl in a dress comes running over from the distance, with a large exclamation mark above her head. Her voice rings out with joy and gratitude. Hello there, miss. I just saw you helping tidy up my garden. Thank you so much. I can tell you must be someone who loves flowers too, and you're a trainer, right? In that case, as a greeting gift, I'll give you this. As the girl speaks, a series of prompts suddenly pop up before Cynthia's eyes. You have obtained trademark Grassy Terrain. Grassy Terrain, when used, replaces the current battlefield terrain with grassy terrain. On this terrain, all Pokémon recover 1/16 of their maximum HP at the end of each turn, Grass-type move power increases by 30%, and the power of Earthquake, Bulldoze, and Magnitude is halved. At the same time, the chat begins scrolling frantically. GG, I've discovered this game's main theme is good deeds get rewarded. Isn't that how it should be? People who do good deeds deserve rewards. So positive, everyone. Starting today, I'm gonna help old ladies jaywalk every day. Oops, I mean cross the street properly. Cynthia stares at the prompt for quite a while before snapping back to reality. What is this? Speak of the devil? This trademark can solve her biggest current problem. She's about to turn and thank the girl, but finds she's already walked away. She figures the developer probably deliberately placed this trademark here. It's basically a tutorial, teaching players the importance of terrain. But, speaking of which, do these terrain moves exist in real life too? After a moment of thought, Cynthia shakes her head slightly, her expression already changing. With this trademark, electric terrain won't be a problem anymore. So then, time for another gym challenge. 2 minutes later, another gym battle begins. You bounced back so quickly after falling? Excellent. Let me see your progress. With Watson's enthusiastic declaration, he once again sends out that specially formed Reishu as his lead Pokémon. And on Cynthia's side, she sends out Grovel. Electric terrain begins swirling and dancing beneath both Pokémon's feet, instantly activating. The first turn plays out predictably with his ability activated. Reishu once again leads with Fake Out, successfully skipping Grovel's first turn and knocking off just under a quarter of his HP. As the second turn begins, Reishu moves first again. This time, due to Grovel's type resistance, he doesn't use Thunderbolt but instead uses Volt Switch. His body transforms into a yellow electric current that crashes into Grovel, dropping his HP bar only slightly, before Reishu becomes a red light and returns to his Pokeball. A message suddenly pops up: Magneton has been switched in. After a flash of red light, a completely new Pokémon appears where Reishu was standing. It's Magneton, with electric and steel types that can resist grass-type moves. However, the next moment, Grovel raises both claws. Green light appears beneath his feet, and blooming flowers and grass sprout from nowhere, covering the entire field and replacing those restless electric currents. Grovel used grassy terrain. The ground is covered with lush green grass. Grass-type move power has increased. Some ground-type move power has decreased. Pokémon will continuously recover HP. Accompanying this prompt, 2 deep green light particles rise from the ground and merge into both Pokémon's bodies. Grovel's HP bar immediately recovers a small, noticeable amount. Immediately after, the third turn begins. Cynthia doesn't attack but chooses to switch Pokémon, sending out Ludicolo. At the same time, the opposing Magneton emits 3 sharp, synchronized calls, and brilliant white light bursts from its body, striking straight at Ludicolo. Magneton used Flash Cannon. This is a high-power steel-type special attack that should deal massive damage given Magneton's strong special attack. However, when it hits Ludicolo, his HP bar drops by less than a third thanks to Ludicolo's water-type resisting steel-type moves. As this turn ends, green light particles appear on the field again, restoring a bit of Ludicolo's HP. The next moment, a new turn begins, and naturally, the faster Ludicolo moves first. Ludicolo used Teeter Dance. He performs a swaying left and right dance, and to comical music, a giant golden star vortex and several small ducks appear above Magneton's head. Magneton is confused. Magneton hurt itself in its confusion. Seeing Magneton's HP bar drop a chunk from hitting itself, Cynthia knows her chance has come. She takes a deep breath and switches to Stufful. Even though she solved the biggest problem in this battle, electric terrain, she still faced a 4-on-3 disadvantage. So to win, she needs another way. Earlier, she mentioned the most crucial unit in this battle was Grovel. That's right. But actually, not entirely correct. At this moment, Stufful enters the field, and Magneton's head sprouts golden stars again as it crashes into the ground. Magneton hurt itself in its confusion. 2 consecutive confusion hits made it hurt itself, cutting its HP by half. However, Lady Luck can't stay on Cynthia's side forever. As the next turn begins, the golden stars above Magneton's head disappear. Magneton's confusion wore off. The confusion status that could have lasted 3-5 turns ends early. However, Cynthia's expression doesn't waver, she even smiles slightly. Against a fighting-type Pokémon, Magneton is at an extreme disadvantage. So he'll definitely switch Pokémon. In that case, our opportunity is here. Stufful, use Bulk Up. As soon as Cynthia finishes speaking, the opposing Magneton becomes a red light and gets recalled by Watson. Taking its place is that familiar figure again, that oddly shaped Reishu. However, Stufful doesn't attack but directly raises both arms on the spot. Deep red light accompanied by blue light appears around his body. Stufful used Bulk Up, his attack and defense stats both rose. A new turn begins, and Reishu once again uses Fake Out. However, this time, with the defense boost, the hit only makes Stufful flinch without dealing much damage, just a tiny bit of chip damage. Normally this would be sufficient wear, but when the turn ends, green light rises from the field and enters Stufful's body, completely restoring his HP to full. Just like that, Reishu's Fake Out had absolutely no practical effect. Cynthia takes a deep breath and chooses Bulk Up again. Reishu still moves first even without electric terrain triggering his ability, his base speed appears quite high. Brilliant electricity instantly hits Stufful, knocking off most of his HP. But he acts like he doesn't care, still raising both arms and making pumping motions like he's working out. Red and blue light shine on his body again. Stufful's attack and defense stats rose again. Normally, even with Stufful's bulk and 2 boosts, it would be meaningless against Reishu. Because this move boosts defense, while Reishu's Thunderbolt is a special attack, it would deal the same damage regardless. In other words, moving second with less than half HP, there's no way Stufful could survive Reishu's second Thunderbolt next turn. But as the turn ends, green light particles appear on the field again and enter both Pokémon. Stufful's HP, thanks to this recovery, rises just above the halfway point. Thanks to Grassy Terrain's continuous effect, he's neutralized the damage from Reishu's Fake Out and survived the knockout threshold for the opponent's second Thunderbolt. And this means that with 2 boosts completed, he has earned the right to attack. The next moment, roaring electric current flashes again as Thunderbolt hits Stufful, rapidly draining his HP. But just as his HP bar is about to hit 0, the decline suddenly stops. Only the tiniest sliver of HP remains. And with a roar, Stufful raises both claws high. Stufful used Payback. Deep black, dense light surges around his claws as he slashes at the opposing Reishu. Payback, a dark-type move. This move has a base power of only 50, but when used while moving second, its power doubles to 100. Combined with 2 levels of attack boosts, Reishu, with his weak physical defense, sees his HP bar plummet like a roller coaster, dropping straight to 0. But that's not all. A berry suddenly flashes in front of Stufful, becoming a beam of light that enters his body, raising his nearly empty HP bar to over 30%. Stufful's held citrus berry activated. His HP was restored. Immediately after, another green light particle from the terrain appears, restoring Stufful's HP to nearly half. The rest of the battle proceeds naturally. The hardest to handle Reishu has been taken out by Stufful in one hit. Magneton, who has the advantage against grass types, also damaged itself for half its HP due to 2 consecutive confusion hits. Facing a Stufful in this condition, Watson doesn't dare send out Magneton and is forced to bring out Manectric. Although Manectric is faster than Stufful, as an unevolved Pokémon, his special attack power is clearly insufficient. Without Electric Terrain's boost, after one Thunderbolt, Stufful's HP bar again has only a sliver left. Just like that, Manectric gets sent packing by Stufful's Payback right after entering the field. Next, although Watson sends out his ace Pokémon Electabuzz, who uses the priority move Mach Punch to barely finish off Stufful's remaining HP. Neither Electabuzz nor the half HP Magneton can do anything about Ludicolo now. To be safe, Cynthia even sends out Grovel again to set up Grassy Terrain one more time before bringing Ludicolo back out. A few turns later, as Magneton falls to Ludicolo's Bubble Beam. This gym battle finally reaches its conclusion, declaring Cynthia's victory. The moment the battle ends, Watson stands up from his seat, laughing heartily while applauding. What a spectacular battle! Young people these days really are something. I can see you've understood the importance of terrain in battle, and the teamwork between you and your Pokémon is admirable. It reminds me of myself when I was young. As Watson speaks, he pulls out a lightning bolt-shaped badge and hands it to Cynthia. Take this, it's the Dynamo badge. With it, your Pokémon's level cap can reach 30, and they can also use the move Rock Smash. By the way, if you want to learn that move, you can visit a researcher's house below my gym. It's his masterpiece, and he'd be happy to teach you. Then Watson slaps his forehead and pulls out another trademark disc. Besides that, here, take this. This is the trademark for Thunderbolt. Yep, the very move I kept using just now. Not only does it have high power, but it might also paralyze your opponent's Pokémon. Make sure your Pokémon put it to good use. Alright, I've got some business to take care of in town, but feel free to come back and challenge the gym again sometime. With that, Watson laughs heartily and turns to leave. Haha. Keep it up, young one. The future belongs to you. He leaves Cynthia standing there, looking at the Thunderbolt trademark in her hands with a somewhat complex expression. To be honest, at first, that move really had her seeing stars from all the zapping. Unfortunately, none of the Pokémon on her current team can learn it, so it's not immediately useful. But thinking about this, she suddenly realizes something. Wait a minute. Iono's Pokémon are all electric types, aren't they? Doesn't that mean she could have all her Pokémon learn Thunderbolt right after beating this gym? Imagining that scenario, Cynthia can't help but shiver. No matter how tough the NPCs in this game are, as long as their main Pokémon isn't ground type, who could withstand a full team of electric types going crazy with Thunderbolt? Who could stop her? No way, she needs to pick up the pace. She takes a deep breath, controls her character, and quickly heads out of the gym. Chapter 52, Cynthia's Tactical Analysis, Lance's New Discovery. Of course, Cynthia naturally hasn't forgotten that she's currently live streaming. As she walks out of the gym, she also begins explaining the key points of that battle to the chat. The crux of this battle, as you all saw, was stopping their electric terrain while setting up our favorable grassy terrain. But actually, there are several other crucial points that you might not have caught. Let me break them down for you. The reason I led with Grovel instead of Ludicolo was because under electric terrain, even with Ludicolo's fake out, he couldn't move before Reissue, so I might as well send out Grovel. And due to Grovel's type resistance, plus the fact that their team has Magneton, which has a huge advantage against Grovel, he would naturally switch on the second turn. This gave Grovel a turn to compete for terrain control. After securing the terrain, we switched to Ludicolo next turn, using his water type to resist steel type moves in a defensive pivot. Next came the turning point of this battle, having Ludicolo use Teeter Dance to control their Magneton. Whether the first turn confusion worked didn't matter, the second turn was what counted. Because on that turn, our most important unit, Stufful, would enter the field. If Magneton hit itself due to confusion on the second turn, Stufful could switch in without taking damage while also breaking through any potential sturdy ability. This would force the opponent to switch Pokémon next turn, or else the Steel-type Magneton would get knocked out in one hit by Fighting-type moves. And this bought us a setup opportunity. Finally, the most critical moment was when Stufful faced off against Reissue. Reissue has an extreme speed advantage, and his Thunderbolt could take down full HP Stufful in 2 hits even without Electric Terrain's boost. Not to mention he also has Fake Out, which lets him get free damage right after switching in. Fortunately, Grassy Terrain's HP recovery effect solved all these problems. The first recovery negated Fake Out's damage, while the next 2 recoveries helped Stufful escape Reissue's 2-hit KO range, letting him get a chance to attack after his second boost. At that point, the quadruple power payback was guaranteed to take down Reissue, since physical defense was never his strong suit. At the same time, the opponent's attack would drop Stufful to his last sliver of HP, successfully triggering the berry recovery effect at under 1/3 health, restoring just enough HP while ensuring he wouldn't get picked off by priority moves, letting him make the most of his final moments. From there, the rest was simple. Grovel and Ludicolo cleaned up the battle, and we achieved victory with 3 Pokémon against 4. After this lengthy explanation, many viewers in the live stream are stunned into silence. For them, battling is actually quite a distant concept. At most, they watch trainer competitions on TV, but that only scratches the surface, they can't really understand the deeper content. But now with Cynthia's explanation, even though it's just a pixelated turn-based battle, they feel shocked and like they've learned so much. So this is what people call the charm of battling. Several seconds later, everyone in the live stream snaps back to reality and starts commenting. Is this how a champion thinks about battles? I've learned so much, really learned so much. My mouth, got it. My brain, no, I don't. As expected of Cynthia, even playing a game is this professional. Meanwhile, Cynthia has walked out of Moly Gym and released her 3 Pokémon from their Pokeballs. Following tradition, every gym victory is celebration time. She first looks at Grovel and pats his head. Grovel, your grassy terrain was really crucial this time, and you had a part in the finish, too. Plus, thanks to your pure grass typing, we could force out their Reishu and bait them into switching to Magneton, exposing their weakness. Hearing Cynthia's sincere words, Grovel had been feeling down about not contributing much in the gym battle, but now his mood immediately improved. He purses his mouth and stands there obediently, letting Cynthia's character pet him. After praising Grovel, Cynthia turns her attention to Ludicolo. Ludicolo, thanks for taking point again to scout out the opponent's strategy. You've been working hard. Hey ha! Ludicolo sways his body left and right, looking cheerful. He doesn't seem to mind this kind of thing at all. As long as he can battle alongside his trainer and win, he's happy. As for Stufful, just as Cynthia is about to praise him. Stufful, this time we really owe it to. But before she can finish, a prompt suddenly pops up in front of her. What's happening to Stufful? The next moment, a rainbow evolution light suddenly bursts from Stufful's body. His appearance begins rapidly changing and shifting in this light, gradually growing larger. When the light fades, his body type has completely transformed, becoming more muscular and tall, changing from walking on all fours to standing on 2 legs, looking just like a person. But his appearance and fur haven't changed much, he looks just like a supersized Stufful. Congratulations! Your Pokémon Stufful has evolved into Beware. After evolving, Beware first curiously examines his new body, then strides forward and directly scoops Cynthia up in a hug, letting out an excited cry. Roar! Cynthia looks at her character's pale face on screen, her expression somewhat complex. Stufful evolving is naturally something to celebrate, but thinking about her memories of this Pokémon species and how they can't control their strength when hugging after evolution, she feels a bit weird about it. Good thing it's not actually her being hugged, but the character in the game. Of course, even if she really caught a Beware in real life, she would patiently work with it until it overcame this bad habit. It's just that the process might involve some suffering on her part. The chat is now full of laughter. Cynthia's definitely thinking, good thing it's not me getting hugged, ha ha ha. This game is so realistic, they even included Beware's deadly bear hugs for trainers lol. Moment of silence for strawberry ice cream. And so, Cynthia's Moly City gym battle comes to a perfect end. She finds the researcher Watson mentioned in the house below the gym, teaches Beware Rock Smash, then takes a deep breath and prepares to leave Moly City. Time to keep this momentum going and head to the next gym. But speaking of which, what city is the next gym in again? Cynthia opens the game map to check. The next gym seems to be in Lava Ridge Town. But why does this town look so far away on the map? Time passes quickly. Night has fallen. In a villa somewhere in the Kanto region, Lance opens his eyes in bed. Yesterday, he stayed up all night playing Emerald, then got called out on a mission in the morning. When he got home in the afternoon, he was really feeling beat, so he lay down for a good sleep. And now, as soon as he gets up, he sits right back down at his computer, eagerly starting up Emerald. For some reason, when playing this game, he always feels this addictive sensation. Like something hidden deep in his bloodline has been awakened. If Kairos were here, he'd be able to give him an accurate diagnosis immediately. Yeah, this is just gaming addiction, no doubt about it. After starting the game, Lance, who had already defeated Duford Gym, takes Old Man Brinny's boat to arrive at Slateport City's beach. After easily defeating the NPCs around the area, he also gets a headache from the tag team battle with his rival and Paul, just like Cynthia did. After countless attempts, Lance finally manages to scrape by. Next, Lance witnesses the Team Aqua attack at the museum. When the submarine captain shows him the contents of the stolen blueprints, Lance can't help but be somewhat surprised. Although he doesn't understand it completely, this blueprint looks incredibly sophisticated at first glance, definitely not something just thrown together casually. At that moment, he finally understands why Cynthia was so adamant about this game's content being realistic. Next, Lance crosses that bridge and successfully reaches Moly City. Unlike Cynthia, he doesn't immediately challenge the gym, but starts searching through various rooms in Moly City. This is a little trick he discovered during his previous gameplay. The developer seems to have deliberately placed plenty of items, move tutors, and obtainable resources and rewards around every city. Some of these rewards can even be directly useful in the upcoming gym battles. So whenever he reaches a new city, thoroughly searching the surrounding area is definitely the right move. Sure enough, Lance soon encounters a lady in front of the flower bed on the left side. She directly asks him a question. "Sir, please wait, do you like flowers?" Lance thinks about it and answers honestly. Some flowers are indeed beautiful. When they bloom all over the mountains and fields, they're full of vitality, of course, I like them. The lady immediately smiles and gives him a trademark. This is grassy terrain. After using it, you can change the terrain in battle. Please make good use of it. Lance opens his party screen and scans through it, finding that his lead Pokémon Applin can learn this move, so he has Applin learn it right away. Besides this trademark, Lance also finds several nuggets in the grass on the left side, a trademark called Substitute, plus a sunstone and an item called Magnet that boosts electric-type move power. Unfortunately, none of these items are immediately useful to him. Those nuggets could be sold for some cash, though. Just as Lance finishes checking the entire Moly City area and prepares to challenge the gym, he suddenly notices that there's a huge game corner right below the gym that he hasn't visited yet. Maybe this game corner has some useful items hidden inside? Without hesitation, he walks into the game corner and starts searching around. However, to his disappointment, even after checking every corner of the game corner thoroughly, he still hasn't found any items. Lance talks to the receptionist and learns that he can exchange his money for coins here. By playing the games in the hall with those coins, he can earn even more coins. And these coins can be exchanged at the front desk for useful items. For example, various TMS, even starter Pokémon, and if he saves up 10,000 coins, he can even exchange them for a pseudo-legendary Dratini. But Lance, weathered by real-world experience, knows very well that this is just the game corner's marketing scheme. Game corners like this actually exist in the real world, too, and they all use rare Pokémon and excellent items as prizes to attract people to play. However, in reality, trying to make money on those machines with game coins is almost impossible, you'll just lose more and more. As for that Dratini, given the exchange rate between game coins and cash, it would cost a full 1 million yen to exchange. What kind of concept is that? Even if he turned all of Moly City upside down, he could barely earn 10,000 yen. So Lance quickly loses interest and turns to leave. But just as he's about to step out the door, he suddenly sees something rather suspicious. A sneaky-looking man near the game corner's wall corner suddenly disappears from that spot. He's stunned for a moment, then immediately returns to where the man disappeared and looks around carefully. But there seems to be only a wall here, nothing else. No matter whether Lance tries using the interaction key or walking directly up to it, there's no response. Did I see wrong just now? Lance can't help but mutter to himself. However, the next moment, he suddenly notices that in the upper right corner of the wall, there's clearly a landscape painting hanging there. He instinctively moves his character over and presses the interaction key on that painting. A prompt suddenly pops up. There seems to be a button behind this painting. Do you want to press it? Lance raises an eyebrow. There really is something fishy going on. He chooses to press it, and a new prompt appears. You press the switch. The wall nearby seems to have loosened. When Lance moves his character toward the wall again, the wall in front of him suddenly spins rapidly, directly bringing him into a secret passage. This is a dark corridor, and the background music immediately becomes tense and urgent. Before Lance can control his character, a voice suddenly rings out beside him. Who are you? Kid, this isn't a place you should be. Battle breaks out immediately, and appearing across from Lance is an NPC wearing a Team Rocket uniform. Seeing this person, Lance's brow immediately furrows. So, this game corner is actually Team Rocket's secret hideout? Before he can think more, the opponent directly sends out their lead Pokémon, a level 45 Meteorite. Lance looks at his team, where the highest level Pokémon barely reaches the level 25 cap, then looks at that Meteorite, and decisively chooses to quit and restart the game. Obviously, according to this game developer's design, this Team Rocket secret base requires players to reach a certain level before returning to explore. But Lance's thoughts right now aren't on this game. What Cynthia told him today has made him understand one thing, nothing in this game was made carelessly. If Team Aqua's Archie is real, then this Team Rocket secret base. After a moment of silence, Lance finally makes his decision. For something like this, it's better to believe it exists than to assume it doesn't. Team Rocket has been suspiciously quiet lately, which actually makes him feel uneasy. Now that there's a chance to take the initiative, how could he not seize it? He directly picks up his phone and dials a number. After a few rings, the call connects, and a somewhat irritated grumbling voice comes through. "TCH, it's so late, who's calling at this hour?" "Hello, this is Kanto Security Department. How can I help you?" Lance clears his throat. "It's me." The person on the other end seems to instantly wake up and quickly says, "Oh. Boss, sorry. I was half asleep and didn't see it was you calling." "What's wrong, boss? Is there some emergency this late?" Lance was about to say he got a lead about Team Rocket from a video game. But he suddenly realizes that explanation might sound a bit inappropriate, so he changes his approach. "I received an important tip from an informant about Team Rocket's secret operations. Right now, take Teams 1 and 3 and check all the game corners in the Kanto region, especially the large ones. Focus your investigation on things hanging on their walls and what's in their trash cans, look for any hidden switches. Remember, don't alert them. If you find anything, contact me immediately, and I'll be right there. Also, prepare for battle." After Lance finishes, he hangs up, takes a deep breath, and puts on his cape. He turns and walks outside, releasing a massive dragon-type Pokémon in the open space. "Drago Knight, get ready for some overtime." Roar! Under the night sky, an orange figure with tremendous presence shoots skyward with powerful air currents. Chapter 53 Team Rocket gets demolished. Bonus chapter, for reaching 1000 power stones. The next morning, Cerulean City. When Kairos woke up in the morning, stretching and seeing the unfamiliar ceiling above his head, he couldn't help but feel a bit disoriented. After a while, he suddenly remembered something he had moved. That old, cramped rental apartment was now a thing of the past. He let out a long sigh of relief, got up from bed, and prepared to greet a beautiful new day. However, at that moment, a series of notification alerts suddenly popped up before his eyes. Ding! Please note, host, important character Lance has broken through the shock threshold, his threshold level has been upgraded to LV2. Kairos? Wait, buddy. If I remember correctly, didn't you just start playing the game yesterday? How did your threshold suddenly jump to level 2 today? You have to understand that Iono started playing several days before Lance, and she still hasn't broken through to level 2 yet. What the heck is going on with Lance? Did he experience some kind of shock in the game? Kairos thought deeply for a while but couldn't figure out what Lance had experienced in the game that could cause such a breakthrough. But then he thought about it and felt relieved. Whatever, Lance leveling up emotionally meant not only would he get rewards, but the emotional points he'd gain from him would also increase accordingly. This was definitely a good thing. He looked at the notification that suddenly appeared before his eyes. Ding! Congratulations host, you have received a threshold upgrade reward, 1500 emotional points random intermediate crafting module X1. Kairos didn't hesitate and directly picked up the card to use it. The next moment, a brand new module appeared before his eyes. Ding! Congratulations host, you have obtained the new module cross-platform, intermediate. Description: with this module, all non-virtual reality games developed by the host can be deployed on mobile phones, computers, gaming consoles, and even smartwatches, without compatibility issues, ignoring device specifications to ensure smooth operation, and allowing free cross-platform multiplayer and data synchronization. Seeing these notifications, Kairos couldn't help but raise an eyebrow slightly. This module definitely wasn't top tier among all intermediate modules, but it could still be considered quite decent. After all, for a game, creating multi-platform clients and synchronizing data between platforms requires a massive amount of energy and time. Many great games can only be played on computers due to device limitations. But with this module, he wouldn't have to worry about such problems anymore. Not only data synchronization and free cross-platform multiplayer. Anyone who bought this game could play it anywhere, anytime, even during work breaks. Heck, even on smartwatches, educational devices, or car entertainment systems they could all run his games. Of course, this current game really isn't suitable for slacking off at work. Speaking of which, he felt this module wouldn't provide much improvement for Pokémon Emerald since it was already just a few hundred MB small game that didn't have high device requirements. Well. But honestly, the Emerald he was creating now really didn't look like what a small game should be. This upgrade reward draw still left Kairos feeling somewhat disappointed. After all, last time he drew a special module, and he could tell at a glance that special modules had stronger effects than regular modules while providing additional point value bonuses. And according to the system, these modules couldn't be purchased directly, they could only be obtained through draws. He wondered what the exact probability of getting special modules was. Lost in thought, Kairos pushed open his door, quickly freshened up, and came to the living room, greeting Litwick who was already eating breakfast at the dining table. "Good morning, Litwick. How was your night?" Litwick. Litwick didn't even look up as it wolfed down the food in its bowl. Whether it was Kairos's imagination or not, he felt like Litwick seemed somewhat tired. However, Kairos didn't pay much attention to this. Probably because after moving to the new house, it was so curious about everything around that it played all night and got tired. Young Pokémon were all like this. When they grew up, they wouldn't be so playful. Kairos didn't plan to interfere, letting it be. He stuffed the sandwich the housekeeper had prepared into his mouth and casually turned on the living room's TV projection. The current channel happened to be a news station, and at that moment, a female anchor was sitting upright in front of the screen, reporting breaking news. This reporter brings you breaking news. Last night, a major incident occurred in the Kanto region as law enforcement officials raided and destroyed a massive hideout belonging to the criminal organization Team Rocket. Kairos was immediately stunned. Team Rocket? He looked up and saw that as the female anchor reported, corresponding footage appeared in the upper right corner of the screen. It appeared to be a huge game arcade. The scene was chaotic, smoke everywhere, various machines destroyed and scattered on the ground. Clearly, this place had just experienced a major battle. Groups of people wearing Team Rocket uniforms were being escorted out by official League enforcement officers. Following behind them were numerous Pokémon trapped in iron cages, along with various strange equipment and instruments. The female anchor's introduction continued. Who would have thought that Celadon City's largest electronic entertainment center actually concealed a massive underground base? The League dispatched numerous enforcement officers that night to clear it out, arresting a total of 135 Team Rocket members and confiscating over 100 pieces of illegal research equipment. According to League reports, many Pokémon that had been captured and were being used for illegal experiments were also discovered in this underground base. The League will severely crack down on such behavior according to law, treat these Pokémon's injuries, and find them suitable homes, ensuring every Pokémon can enjoy their rightful survival rights. Currently, the registered company of this electronic entertainment center has been sealed by the League. This reporter will continue to follow up on this story. Next, we report another piece of news. According to the latest discovery by the Astronomical Research Department, in 1 month, a red meteor shower may pass close to our planet. Seeing this, Kairos froze on the sofa, seeming to realize something. Combined with this morning's notification about Lance's shock threshold upgrade. Lance couldn't have played his game last night, discovered Team Rocket had a secret base hidden in the game arcade in Moly City, and then sent people to search the Kanto region overnight, right? And they actually found it. No wonder Lance's emotional fluctuation was big enough to break through the threshold. As a League undercover investigator, he suddenly learned from a game that the world's largest criminal organization had hidden their secret base in a game arcade, then went to investigate following that lead, and actually discovered it was real. It would be really hard to keep emotions stable, right? Kairos was somewhat speechless, his expression complex. This was naturally good news for the League, but for Giovanni, this was simply an undeserved disaster. Whatever, not my problem. I'm just a game developer. Anyway, in the end, even if they investigated, it wouldn't trace back to him. Besides, Team Rocket's unconscionable behavior of conducting live experiments on Pokémon should have been stopped anyway. Thinking of this, an important thought suddenly flashed through Kairos's mind. Pokémon experiments? Right. The world he had transmigrated to was essentially a parallel world. Many things and characters were exactly the same as the original work, yet many things were different from the original. For example, legendary Pokémon hadn't appeared for hundreds of years, and the number of trainers wasn't as numerous as in the original work. So, what would be the situation with the only artificial legendary Pokémon, one of the combat ceiling powerhouses Mewtwo? In the Ultimate Emerald storyline, the secret base beneath Moly City's game arcade was exactly what Team Rocket used to research and create Mewtwo. And in the original work, Mewtwo was also a special Pokémon artificially created by Team Rocket's insane project, possessing Mew's genes while having completely different powerful combat abilities. It could even be ranked among the first-tier legendaries. So, had Team Rocket already started creating Mewtwo? Or did they not have such a plan? Or had they already completed Mewtwo's creation? Kairos fell into deep thought. If it was the second possibility, that would be fine. But if it was the first or third possibility, that could be quite troublesome. After being created by Team Rocket, this legendary Pokémon Mewtwo initially had no autonomous consciousness and was always used by Team Rocket as a tool. It wasn't until later, through a series of coincidences, that it gradually awakened its own consciousness and successfully escaped Team Rocket's control, becoming a free individual. But in this world, Kairos couldn't be sure that if Team Rocket really had developed Mewtwo, things would unfold like they did in the original storyline. If in this world where the strongest trainers could only reach champion level and legendary Pokémon had disappeared without a trace, Team Rocket completely controlled Mewtwo's power and kept it firmly in their possession. Kairos didn't even dare think too much about what might happen. But then again, he was just an ordinary person who made games. Even if he wanted to get involved in such matters, there was no way. However, he could use the game to try to reveal more information about Mewtwo in the upcoming storyline. He believed that after seeing this information, whether it was Cynthia, Lance, or other gym leaders and Elite Four members, they would all take action in the real world. Just like Lance going to destroy Team Rocket's secret hideout this time. With this thought, Kairos shook his head slightly, feeling somewhat more relaxed. But at the same time, he also realized a new problem. Since Mewtwo's situation in this world was unclear, what about other characters from the original work? Did characters like Ash and Misty exist? He'd have to explore this later himself. If Ash existed, he'd definitely have to meet this old friend no matter what. And maybe warn him to be careful during the finals about potentially facing a Mega Charizard with the water absorbability when using Greninja. However, one thing that was currently clear about the world he was in, the Pokémon regions in this world weren't complete. Some regions' Pokémon had already appeared, but the corresponding regions didn't exist. For example, the Glimmora from before was a Pokémon unique to the Paldea region, yet this world only had 4 regions, Hone, Sinnoh, Kanto, and Unova. If you really had to count, there was also Iono's Paldea region, but its area was very small, far from being as vast as in the original work, like a truncated version. As for places like the Alola region and Kalos region, they were even worse off, they simply didn't exist at all. But for Kairos, this was obviously a good thing, because in future games, he could better present these regions to players. So the next game, should it be Scarlet and Violet based on the Paldea region, or Sun and Moon based on the Alola region? Just as Kairos was pondering, he suddenly felt a chill coming from behind him. Kairos instinctively whipped around, but found nothing behind him. Was it just my imagination? He scratched the back of his head. In that instant, besides the chill, Kairos had the distinct feeling that something was watching him from behind. But thinking about it, it was broad daylight, his villa was surrounded by security guards. Plus his identity was protected by the system and was completely classified. He didn't need to worry about anyone coming to find him. Kairos relaxed and got up to walk toward the bedroom. However, what he didn't know was, shortly after he left, a shadow quietly appeared at the living room window, crimson eyes peering in the direction where Kairos had just departed, and after a moment, it disappeared back into thin air. Sinnoh region. After challenging the gym yesterday, Cynthia didn't continue toward Lava Ridge town, but ended her live stream and went out. As a champion, even when the league didn't assign her special missions, there were still daily affairs that required her time to handle. Fortunately, the next day, she was lucky enough not to receive any special assignments and had a full day to play Emerald again. She skillfully logged into the game, opened her stream, greeted the chat, and Cynthia's character reappeared at the entrance of Moly Gym. Following Watson's instructions, she went to the room next to the gym, had Beware successfully learn Rock Smash, used this move to break through the 2 blocking rocks, and continued heading north from Moly City. Not long after walking, her screen went black. A new cutscene was triggered. In the cutscene was a vast, boundless desert with fierce sandstorms raging. In the desert, Trapinch shook their heads, searching for today's lunch. Cacnea took root in the sand, desperately absorbing the last traces of moisture from the earth. Cynthia could even see several skulls of unknown creatures scattered throughout the desert, blown away by gusts of wind. Such exquisite and realistic imagery made her feel as if she were truly standing in a desert. The cutscene ended, and the entrance to that desert naturally appeared before her. But when Cynthia tried to control her character to enter and explore, her character was blown back by howling winds. A game prompt also appeared. The sandstorm here is too intense. Cannot enter for now. Cynthia could only feel somewhat regretful and continue heading left. Honestly, she was quite interested in such a desert. Because often in such remote places, there would be many ancient artifacts and ruins. Next, after defeating several tough NPCs, she climbed to the foot of Mt Chimney and learned from passers-by that to go up the mountain, she could only take the cable car nearby. But the cable car entrance was blocked by two NPCs wearing red hats. This time, through the logos on their clothing, Cynthia immediately recognized their identity. These were members of Team Magma, another major criminal organization in the Hone region. Unlike Team Aqua, their methods were quite high profile, with members often committing robberies and thefts in broad daylight. Therefore, Hone's League enforcement organizations had launched large-scale crackdowns against them more than once. Fortunately, in recent years, this organization's illegal activities had also decreased, and like Team Aqua, they had gone silent. Looking at the two people before her, Cynthia couldn't help but fall into contemplation. She already knew about Lance using game content to find Team Rocket's secret base in the Kanto region last night. This was definitely not a coincidence, but the game actually providing accurate clues about villainous organizations. If that was the case, the matter about Archie should also be true. So, what about this Team Magma? Could they, like Team Aqua, also have some earth-shattering plan? Cynthia suppressed her emotions and controlled her character to approach and try talking to those two NPCs, wanting to see if she could get some information from them. However, those two immediately drove her away without saying a word. "Where'd this little kid come from? The boss said no one's allowed through here. Don't bother us." "That's right, you can't get through until they return from Meteor Falls." Seeing these two lines of dialogue, Cynthia understood that this was probably like before she'd need to trigger some storyline to get through. And this Meteor Falls, according to the map, she'd need to go through the cave nearby to reach the next city, Fall Arbor Town, then travel a good distance south to arrive there. So she turned and entered the cave nearby. This cave was called Fiery Path, with extremely high internal temperatures and steam visible everywhere. The Pokémon living here were mostly fire types, like Torkoal, Rapidash, and Magmar. With Ludicolo's Bubble Beam for type advantage, Cynthia successfully passed through the cave with almost no pressure. But just as she exited the cave, someone immediately approached her. It was a young man with a strange hairstyle that covered half his face. He had green pupils and appeared to be about the same age as Cynthia's character. Upon meeting, he spoke first, his tone cheerful. "Hey, hello there. Nice to meet you. I'd like to ask you a question. Do you know about Ultra Space?" Chapter 54 Mysterious Pokémon. Ultra Space? Ultra Space? Faced with these two words suddenly posed by the person who appeared before her, Cynthia couldn't help but be slightly stunned. This was a term she had never heard before. Seeing that Cynthia was dazed and didn't respond, the young man across from her continued speaking on his own. "Well, it seems you don't know about this strange phenomenon. What a shame, I thought I might be able to get some clues from you. But you should be a Pokémon trainer, right? Since we've met, how about a battle?" With his words, the game didn't immediately enter battle mode as usual. A prompt appeared before Cynthia's eyes. "Ether Foundation's son, Gladion has come to challenge you. Accept the battle." Cynthia thought about it and ultimately chose to accept. The young man immediately smiled. "Very good, then let's have a proper match. Let me show you my most prideful partner." The next moment, intense battle music began playing, Pokeball icons swept across the screen, and the game switched to the battle interface. Faced with this sudden change, the livestream audience's reaction was naturally much stronger than Cynthia's. In a game where everyone's super masculine and wants to fight anyone they see, there's actually someone polite enough to ask if you want to battle before starting. How refreshingly courteous. The son of the Ether Foundation? Sounds like he's got some serious backing, but what kind of organization is that? Don't tell me it's another villainous organization. I think it sounds like it might be, but this guy can't be as twisted as that Paul guy from earlier, right? Probably not. Look, his team only has 2 Pokémon. He's probably just a random character. +1. As the battle began, many viewers noticed that in the battle interface at the top, the Pokeballs representing Gladion's Pokémon count showed only 2, so they all breathed a sigh of relief. Based on their experience, NPCs carrying fewer Pokémon usually meant lower battle difficulty. However, the next moment, when Gladion threw his Pokeball and sent out his Pokémon, everyone was suddenly stunned. A deep black body, fluffy fur, handsome, dashing, and mysteriously charming appearance. Gladion sent out Zoroark. The opponent chose not to trigger the illusion ability, so Zoroark appeared in its true form. This was Zoroark, an extremely rare Pokémon. But unlike other rare Pokémon, Zoroark seemed to mostly exist independently, rather than living in groups like other rare Pokémon. Therefore, its rarity was quite astounding, with traces of this Pokémon only appearing in extremely remote areas of select regions. If any trainer in the real world captured a Zoroark, it would immediately cause a sensation, even if the person who captured it was an Elite Four member or champion. Yet now, such a Pokémon appeared in the possession of this person called Gladion. At the same time, the moment Cynthia saw this Pokémon, she immediately realized something was wrong and became serious. All the opponents she had faced before used ordinary Pokémon, yet still put tremendous pressure on her. So this guy would probably be even more challenging. She immediately gave her command. Ludicolo, Teeter Dance. As it turned out, this battle went about as Cynthia had expected. Even with Ludicolo inflicting confusion status on it, Zoroark managed to use Dark Pulse twice in a row, taking out Ludicolo in just 2 hits, including the first turn. And its damage was severely excessive. Ludicolo nearly ended up owing health. Next, when Beware entered the field, Zoroark triggered Confusion twice, which barely allowed Beware to take it down. It looked like a 1-for-1 trade, but in reality, many viewers in the livestream were already sweating. That damage is way too broken, holy cow. If she hadn't inflicted confusion at the start, Cynthia would probably be restarting right now. So this is Zoroark. I wish I could have one. Hey, you above, just play Emerald. If this NPC can catch Zoroark, then players naturally can too, hehe. While the chat was discussing intensely, Cynthia also breathed a slight sigh of relief. This Zoroark's speed and special attack power were quite outrageous. If she couldn't resolve it quickly, she would probably have been wiped out. Fortunately, confusion triggered twice in a row. Just as she was thinking, she saw Gladion, who had recalled Zoroark, reappear on the field, his voice filled with surprise. I didn't expect to find someone here who could defeat my Zoroark. How interesting. In that case, I should get a bit more serious too. Go, Silvally. As he threw his Pokeball, a Pokémon with a leopard-like appearance and a massive crown-like crest on its head appeared before him. Silvally, the opponent fears flying type. Change. Gladion said, waving his hand and throwing a white disc toward Silvally. The next moment, snow-white light began surging over Silvally's body. Its form rapidly changed, growing snow-white wings on both sides of its body. Seeing this scene, the chat naturally exploded. What kind of Pokémon is this? It can change forms and switch types on the spot. Who just said this guy was an NPC? Please step forward, thanks. At the same time, Cynthia was also somewhat confused. Switching its own type during battle, some Pokémon could indeed do this. But that all required using moves and spending time. This Pokémon called Silvally just switched directly? Didn't this mean that in one battle, it could flexibly change its type according to the opponent's attributes, always maintaining resistance to the opponent's type while countering theirs? In Pokémon battles, when strength was similar, type advantage was quite important. She understood very clearly what having such an ability meant. Cynthia pressed the screenshot button she had used countless times, saving this Pokémon's appearance, took a deep breath, and refocused her attention on the game. Regardless, the opponent only had one Pokémon. Although it countered her entire team with flying type, if she tried hard enough, there was still a chance to win. However, 1 minute later, looking at the opposing Silvally still at full health in her completely wiped out team, Cynthia's expression became somewhat complex. She had thought Zoroark's output ability and speed were already quite outrageous, but she hadn't expected there to be something even more powerful. With her current team configuration, this Silvally was completely impossible to deal with. The opponent had extremely high speed, guaranteed first strike every turn, and would use a move called multi-attack each round. This move had extremely high power and seemed to change its type according to Silvally's current type. Moreover, what was even more broken was that during battle, Silvally could freely switch types at the start of each turn. For example, when facing Grovel, a grass type, when she commanded Grovel to use Pursuit, the only move that wouldn't be resisted, the opponent actually changed to Dark type beforehand, thus resisting that move. Although Grovel didn't even get to attack before being one-shot by the opponent's Ice Fang. But the moment she failed, Cynthia didn't feel disappointed. Instead, she took a deep breath and rapidly thought of strategies to counter this Pokémon. But what she didn't expect was that after the battle ended, she wasn't forced back to the Pokémon Center, nor did the screen go dark with the message "Strawberry Ice Cream's eyes went dark." That young man called Gladion actually walked up and pulled out several light blue, glowing potions from his coat, using them on Cynthia's Pokémon. They instantly opened their eyes and woke up, becoming full of energy with completely restored HP and status. Seeing this, Gladion spoke again. "Sorry, since it was a Pokémon battle, I didn't hold back. It seems your Pokémon aren't quite my opponents yet, but that's okay. I have a feeling that in the future, you'll definitely become a stronger trainer and even defeat me." At this point, he scratched the back of his head, seeming somewhat embarrassed as he continued. I have a favor to ask. Could you help me gather information about Ultra Space?" Hearing this, Cynthia couldn't help but press the interaction button and speak up. "What is this Ultra Space you're talking about?" Hearing this, Gladion smacked his forehead, as if suddenly realizing something. "Sorry, I forgot you might not have heard of it. In that case, let me explain. Ultra Space is a special dimension that exists independently from reality, seemingly connected to another incredible world. In that world exist numerous Pokémon that are all special and dangerous. We call them Ultra Beasts. Recently, Ultra Space has become increasingly restless, with many Ultra Beasts appearing in reality. So I'm investigating Ultra Wormholes in the Hone region on behalf of the Ether Foundation." As he spoke, Gladion pulled out a photograph showing a deep purple vortex with an eerie glow. "This is what Ultra Wormholes look like in the real world. If you see one, make sure to stay far away from it, then contact me immediately and tell me its location. I'll have someone come deal with it right away." As Gladion said this, the chat was naturally buzzing with discussion. Ultra Wormholes sound pretty interesting. This author really has quite an imagination to come up with such a concept. Indeed, Ultra Beasts sound so cool. So this guy is actually the son of a major good organization? No wonder his Pokémon are so outrageous, starting with ultra-rare Pokémon. "Does he look like a villain to you?" He asked if you wanted to battle before fighting, and after winning, he helped heal your Pokémon without charging money. What a good guy. While the audience was discussing, Cynthia's pupils suddenly contracted as she stared intently at that photograph. In that instant, she felt as if a bolt of lightning had struck her from above. Ultra Wormholes. So that's what they were called. 5 years ago, in the Kanto region, a massive deep purple vortex appeared in the outskirts of Saffron City. After being spotted, it was immediately reported to the League, and out of caution, the League immediately dispatched numerous elite trainers to observe and blockade it. That very night, numerous strangely shaped Pokémon suddenly emerged from the vortex. Not only were they incredibly powerful, but they also showed extreme aggression toward humans. In less than 10 minutes, over half the elite trainers were casualties. It was only when Lance, responding to the distress signal, arrived to intervene that they barely managed to deal with the Pokémon that had emerged from the hole. After the battle ended, the vortex simply disappeared. The League thought the incident was over, but they didn't realize it was just the beginning of a nightmare. As time passed, identical vortexes began appearing in various regions, and each time they appeared, the vortexes were larger than before. The bizarre Pokémon emerging from them were also stronger and more numerous. Under these circumstances, the League was forced to deploy more personnel to constantly combat these vortexes. Champions like Cynthia also had to occasionally deal with vortexes near the Sinnoh region. Even Emma, whom she had contacted earlier, was currently a member of the special task force dealing with these vortexes. Even so, due to the danger of those bizarre Pokémon, every confrontation with the vortexes resulted in numerous trainers and Pokémon being severely injured or even killed. These vortexes were called black holes by the League. The only fortunate thing was that they never appeared in urban areas without exception, they all appeared in the outskirts, so they hadn't caused large-scale civilian casualties. But as time passed, these black holes were appearing more frequently, growing larger in scale, and appearing closer and closer to cities. Some civilians had even witnessed battles between League trainers and those Ultra Beasts. The League had to work hard to suppress this information to avoid panic. But this ultimately wasn't a fundamental solution. This matter was like a huge boulder pressing down on the League's head, like a ticking time bomb no one knew when it would completely explode and sweep away this peaceful world. The League had also tried to study the causes and mysteries behind these vortexes, but aside from the Ultra Beasts being terrifyingly powerful and normally impossible to approach the black holes. Not to mention, trainers and Pokémon who accidentally got too close to Ultra Wormholes would disappear on the spot, never to return. Under such circumstances, how could the League let defenseless researchers take such risks? Cynthia had actually been secretly worrying about this for some time. She understood that given the strength of those bizarre Pokémon from the black holes, if any single black hole appeared in a city, it would result in at least thousands of civilian casualties. And she wasn't confident that if things continued this way, with these black holes growing larger and appearing more frequently, would the League still have the strength to stop them? In the worst-case scenario, if one day the black holes stopped disappearing, or even appeared all at once in one location. Even as a champion, when Cynthia thought of such a scene, she felt deep and overwhelming despair. Fortunately, none of this had happened yet. She could only constantly monitor the black hole situation in the Sinnoh region, rushing to the scene immediately upon discovery to help, while hoping that the League's researchers could successfully explore the mysteries of these black holes. But now, when she saw in the game that photograph identical to the real-world black holes, Cynthia felt as if all the blood in her body had frozen. Everything in this game was real. So could she obtain intelligence about ultra wormholes from it next? No, not just that. Since the game developer could write this content, it proved he had an even deeper understanding of ultra wormholes. If she could contact him, she might be able to find a way to solve the ultra wormhole problem. Even if not, she could at least gather more intelligence and make better preparations to minimize casualties as much as possible. With this thought, Cynthia immediately sat up as if she had become a different person, her eyes flashing with excitement. Without hesitation, she turned off her livestream's microphone and camera and got up to dial a number. A few seconds later, an elderly female voice came through the phone. "Oh, it's you, little Cynthia. How have you been? I haven't seen you in so long. Is there something you need my help with?" Cynthia took a deep breath and immediately said, "Grandma Carolina, I need to access someone's files." Previously, when she wanted to find the game developer to ask about legendary Pokémon clues, it was purely for her own needs. So after learning that the person's information was in the classified database, Cynthia hadn't asked Emma to continue investigating. On one hand, it wasn't necessary if it was just for some information about legendary Pokémon, the classified database really shouldn't be accessed. On the other hand, it was also out of respect for that game developer. But now, the matter involved ultra wormholes, such a crisis. What she was doing was for the sake of this world. As a champion, she had to be responsible for every citizen's safety. Getting information about ultra wormholes 1 second earlier could help avoid one more second of potential future catastrophe. At that moment, the person on the other end sounded somewhat puzzled. "Silly child, with your clearance level, you can look at anyone's files." She seemed to realize something. "Wait. You mean you want to access the classified database?" Cynthia nodded. "Yes, my clearance isn't sufficient, so I need your help." There was silence on the other end of the phone for a moment. "Child, it's possible, but I need a reasonable explanation from you. You know that the classified database contains the foundation of our League's existence, truly top-secret information that can't be accessed casually." Cynthia took a deep breath and said directly, "Grandma, he has detailed information about the black holes. Regarding black holes, he probably knows more than all of us combined." This time, the voice on the other end, which had always been calm as still water, suddenly became excited. "Black holes? Are you telling the truth? No, you've never lied since you were little. Child, quickly tell me. Who are you looking for?" Chapter 55 Ultra Crystals, Volcanic Ash Rewards. Upon seeing this, Cynthia immediately said without hesitation. "His online name is Kairos, and he's the creator of a game called Pokémon Emerald. I previously had someone look into his files, but they ultimately found nothing. They said he should be in the League's classified database. Plus, his understanding of Pokémon is quite astounding, so I think he might be someone from a key research field. Wait a moment. This matter is too important. I'll go check immediately. The elder's excited voice came through the phone. Cynthia said nothing and sat quietly, waiting for the elder's response. A full minute later, the elder's voice came through the phone again. Little Cynthia, are you sure the identity information you gave is correct? Hearing this, Cynthia was immediately stunned, then nodded. I'm sure. Honestly, she already had an ominous feeling. After all, if the search had gone smoothly, they wouldn't be reacting like this. Sure enough, moments later, the elder's voice came through, filled with confusion. I just looked carefully, and there's no one in the classified database whose information matches what you described. I checked the game you mentioned. The identity information in the game creator column is a string of garbled code. Not only that, the Skynet system also found that a player account called Decent Person on Battle Road has the same garbled code in place of their identity number. Decent Person, garbled code. Now, even Cynthia couldn't help but exclaim in surprise. Could that decent person also be him? If it was just the game registration information being garbled code, that would be one thing. It could just be a system bug from Dream Factory. After all, this game company had the most bugs in the industry, so such a situation wouldn't be strange at all. But if even the League's official website had the same garbled code for the Pokémon Emerald registrant information, and it was identical, then this definitely wasn't a bug issue. While Cynthia was surprised, the elder's voice came through the phone again. I tried having people trace that game's profit accounts, but found nothing could be traced. That money just disappeared into thin air without any records. All other information that might be connected to his identity, even IP addresses, cannot be queried. I can only think of one possibility for this situation. This person should be using some extremely powerful technical means to perfectly hide his identity. I could send people to investigate if he left any traces, but that game website is a subsite of the League's official site, connected to Skynet. If he can even fool Skynet, then the people I send probably. The elder didn't continue, but Cynthia already understood what he meant. I couldn't find anything, and even Skynet, the League's highest network achievement, couldn't find a trace either. Trying to obtain the other party's identity information through this method to contact him was basically impossible. At first, Cynthia thought the creator, Wind, was just a trainer with a deep understanding of legendary Pokémon. But as time passed, not only had this person's veil not been lifted before her eyes, it had become increasingly mysterious and profound. She took a deep breath and said, I understand, Grandma Carolina. You don't need to investigate anymore. I have another way to contact him. Leave it to me. I will definitely bring back information about ultra wormholes. All right, child. Let me know anytime if you need support. The elder replied very seriously. She knew that any promise Cynthia made would definitely be fulfilled. Please help me find another champion to cover my recent routine patrols and emergency missions. I'll compensate them later. Cynthia replied. All right. The elder agreed readily. At this point, having calmed down, Cynthia suddenly realized she had been too hasty in her urgency to ensure civilian safety and solve the ultra wormhole issue. Even if she had forcibly contacted this person by searching for his identity, how could she guarantee he would definitely help her and reveal all the ultra wormhole information? The other party had deliberately set up a challenge to obtain contact information, and by bypassing this challenge, she was undoubtedly being disrespectful. She looked up at her first place progress position on the game leaderboard and took a deep breath. Since she was the one asking for help, she should follow the other party's rules. After ending the call, Cynthia returned to her computer, turned on her livestream camera and microphone, and said with an apologetic forced smile. Sorry, everyone, I just had some urgent matters to handle. They're resolved now. The livestream audience quickly flooded the chat with comments. It's okay, boss. Do whatever you want. We'll wait here for you. You scared me. I thought the streamer couldn't handle losing and went to challenge the game creator offline. Streamer, you're awake. You've already become garde voir. There were also many comments showing concern for Cynthia. Ha ha ha. Sister Cynthia, don't put too much pressure on yourself. Even if you have many missions, pay attention to your health and rest well. Exactly, exactly. I've seen you going on missions a lot lately. Sigh, I feel tired just watching you. Right, even though you're a champion, you're still just a girl at heart. Remember to be good to yourself. Seeing these caring comments, Cynthia's gaze momentarily drifted. After a while, her unfocused pupils refocused with renewed determination and fell back on the screen. The dialog box popped up again, and Gladion, standing across from her, spoke. Ah. I know these things might be troublesome for you, but this is really important, so please help me. Oh, here, take this first. As he spoke, he pulled out a box and handed it to Cynthia. Inside the box was an irregular, deep black crystal. A game notification popped up before her eyes. Ding! Congratulations, player, you have obtained the special item Ultra Crystal. Gladion's explanation followed. This is an Ultra Crystal, from a special crystal stone inside Ultra Wormholes. When it senses an Ultra Wormhole nearby, it will glow red to warn you. The closer you get, the stronger the glow becomes. The larger the crystal, the stronger the effect. Yours can probably work within a 5 km range. Also, this crystal can be used to make a special Pokeball. Only this type of Pokeball can capture Ultra Beasts. We're currently developing this type of Pokeball further. When we have a finished product, I'll give you some when we meet again. Alright, I need to continue searching for Ultra Wormholes. See you later. If you find anything, contact me using the communication number on the box. After speaking, Gladion snapped his fingers. Silvali's figure instantly appeared beside him, carrying him as they spread their wings and flew into the sky, disappearing from sight. Cynthia looked at the Ultra Crystal that had appeared in her bag, deep in thought. From what she knew about Ultra Wormholes, the Ultra Beasts couldn't be captured normally with Pokeballs, even after being defeated. A research team had once tried to forcibly bring an Ultra Beast back to the laboratory for study, but during transport, the Ultra Beast turned into gas in front of everyone and disappeared into thin air. So this thing called Ultra Crystals might also exist in the real world. If the League could find it, they could provide early warning for Ultra Wormhole appearances and try to make Pokeballs capable of capturing Ultra Beasts using this material. But this probably wouldn't be easy either. Currently, they could only passively combat Ultra Wormholes. Forget about approaching Ultra Wormholes, even defeating those Ultra Beasts was extremely difficult. Thinking of this, Cynthia shook her head slightly. There were still too few clues and information about Ultra Wormholes. She could only hope that the next time she met Gladion, she would learn more. Or, let herself personally experience entering an Ultra Wormhole in this game. While Cynthia was pondering, her phone suddenly rang. She looked down and saw it was a call from Professor Oak. Originally, Cynthia wanted to use this opportunity to discuss Ultra Wormholes with Professor Oak, but she ultimately decided not to mention it first. Although Professor Oak was a champion in his early years, he was quite old now. At his age, still dedicating himself to Pokémon research was already quite remarkable. Although Professor Oak knew a thing or two about Ultra Wormholes, it really didn't concern him much now. With the current situation of Ultra Wormholes, there was simply no possibility of conducting close-range research on them. Even if she told Professor Oak about this new intelligence and information, it wouldn't help much with the Ultra Wormhole situation. Bringing up these matters with him now would purely be adding to the old man's worries. With that thought in mind, Cynthia answered the phone. Professor Oak's laughter came through from the other end. Hey, little Cynthia. How's the game going? I see you're already in first place. Not bad. I'm already preparing to head to the next city. It seems I need to trigger some storyline before I can take the cable car to Lavaridge Town to challenge the next gym. Cynthia replied honestly. How about you, Professor? Me? I'm already preparing to go to Duford Town. Those 3 fossil Pokémon are really quite troublesome to deal with. Professor Oak said. Cynthia was stunned. 3? You mean? Yes, that Archon is also a fossil Pokémon. My team found its feather and tooth fossils among our stored Pokémon fossils, perfectly matching what's in the game. We were still guessing which Pokémon these fossils belonged to, but it turned out to be another new ancient Pokémon. Professor Oak continued, somewhat excitedly. Quite the find, right? We're still trying to understand how they fit into the larger ecosystem. But it looks like we've got a lot more to explore. Cynthia thought for a moment and sent Professor Oak a screenshot she had just taken of a Pokémon called Silvally. Professor, take a look at this Pokémon. Do you recognize it? It can freely switch its form and corresponding type during battle. She paused and then added, also, I think I saw an unfamiliar green hedgehog-like Pokémon in the flower bed next to Moly City earlier. After a moment of silence, Professor Oak finally responded with a thoughtful hum. Hiss, I've never seen this Silvally you mentioned either. Can it really change its type freely? How fascinating. As for that hedgehog-like Pokémon, I haven't heard of it either, he continued. But I do know the flower you mentioned. Cynthia perked up at this. You do? Yes, Professor Oak replied, interestingly, it's a plant unique to your Sinnoh region, commonly growing in the highland areas of Mt. Coronet. It's said that its branches, leaves, fruits, and seeds all have extremely strong healing effects for Pokémon. Cynthia was intrigued. That's incredible. I didn't know about that. Professor Oak sighed softly, his voice tinged with a bit of regret. Unfortunately, that flower went completely extinct several decades ago for unknown reasons, and no trace has been found since. Cynthia frowned, her mind racing. What if we could find it again? If modern research technology could be used? Ah, if only, Professor Oak said wistfully. If we could find even one specimen, we might be able to cultivate it again. Imagine what it could mean for Pokémon medicine and healing. Cynthia couldn't help but think of the seed she had acquired while playing the game, the Gracidea flower seed. But, of course, it was an in-game item, not something real. She kept her thoughts to herself for now, but the idea of actually obtaining a real Gracidea flower seed was both exciting and a little bittersweet. If only it were real. After briefly chatting with Professor Oak, Cynthia got back to the game. She continued controlling her character through Fiery Path, making her way left along the route, eventually arriving at a grassy area covered in volcanic ash. She began encountering several NPC battles along the way. Fortunately, these NPCs weren't particularly challenging, as expected, mostly coming in to donate experience and money. After easily defeating them, Cynthia's Pokémon leveled up, reaching level 28. While progressing, she discovered a small house nestled in the volcanic ash-covered grassland. Curious, she entered, and a man immediately approached her. Volcanic ash is created from fragments produced by volcanic eruptions. Many people don't like it, but few know that it can be fired into glass and used to make special items, so these are all valuable treasures. He smiled as he introduced himself. I'm the volcanic ash guy. If you can collect enough volcanic ash, you can exchange it here for special items made from volcanic ash or other rewards. The man handed Cynthia a bag and explained that she could now collect volcanic ash automatically by walking around the area. Cynthia checked her bag and then opened the chat window to see the list of possible rewards she could exchange volcanic ash for. She raised an eyebrow, surprised by the range of items on offer. Among the volcanic ash-made items were yellow, blue, and red glass flutes, each with a unique function to cure status conditions like sleep, confusion, and infatuation. There were also black and white glass flutes that increased the probability of encountering either strong or weak Pokémon. But what truly caught Cynthia's attention was a held item that could be exchanged for 1000 volcanic ash. Leftovers. She knew exactly how important this item could be, especially in long, drawn-out battles. Leftovers gradually restored a Pokémon's HP each turn, making it a valuable asset, particularly for high-endurance Pokémon. Recalling her recent gym battles, Cynthia knew this could give her the edge in future confrontations. Without hesitation, she made her decision. At the very least, she had to get her hands on that leftovers. She quickly left the building and began running through the volcanic ash-covered grass. After a few steps, a child suddenly popped out from behind a pile of volcanic ash and challenged her to a battle. How was my camouflage? Did I scare you? Cynthia smiled at the child's playful remark and defeated them effortlessly, continuing to gather volcanic ash along the way. A few minutes later, she returned to the volcanic ash house. The man was already waiting with a broad grin on his face. I didn't expect you to collect so much volcanic ash. Come exchange it for the rewards you want. You currently have 2156 volcanic ash. What would you like to exchange? Cynthia, with a satisfied smile, first spent 1000 volcanic ash for the leftovers. Then, she used another 600 volcanic ash to exchange for 2 flutes, one that increases the probability of encountering high-level Pokémon, and one for weak Pokémon. As for the status-curing flutes, she decided to grab 2 of each, just in case. After spending a bit more, she still had over 500 volcanic ash left. She was about to use the remainder for practical items like Pokeballs and potions when something caught her eye in the reward list. It was a rusty, grey iron sword, covered in chips and cracks. There were 2 prompts at the bottom of the item description. Rusted sword. Exchange cost? Volcanic ash points. Chapter 56 Rusted sword? A new Pokémon joins the team. Cynthia paused, staring at the sword that had suddenly appeared before her, a puzzled expression crossing her face. The sword looked completely ordinary, even decrepit, like something that would fall apart if picked up, or break in half with a single swing. Why would such a sword appear in the volcanic ash exchange item list? The stream chat exploded with comments as they noticed the sword. What's this guy's deal? Is he really trying to sell junk like this? Hey, don't underestimate scrap dealers. They probably wouldn't even want a rusty sword like this. True. Something feels off. Knowing this game creator's style, this sword can't be just ordinary. While the chat debated, Cynthia's gaze remained fixed on the sword. For some reason, it felt compelling. As though it was silently urging her to connect with it. This wasn't the first time Cynthia had experienced this sensation. Whenever she felt this pull, it meant one thing: whatever lay before her had survived countless ages, was ancient, and held secrets beyond ordinary comprehension. She often sensed it while exploring ancient altars and ruins. But this time? The sensation was stronger than ever before. Without hesitation, Cynthia pressed the interaction button beside the man and asked, "How much volcanic ash do I need to trade for that sword?" The man blinked in surprise. A red exclamation mark popped above his head as he fumbled through a nearby cabinet, pulling out the broken sword and placing it on the table. "You mean this?" he said. "I found it lying on the side of the road. It's not worth much. I was going to melt it down for scrap metal, but it won't melt, no matter how much I burn it. So I just left it here. If you want it, I'll take all your volcanic ash in exchange. What do you say? If not, I'll sell it to the town collector. Steel that won't melt even in flames? He'll pay well for it." Cynthia didn't hesitate. She immediately traded all her remaining volcanic ash. She felt a small sense of relief. She had already spent most of her ash on other items. If she hadn't, getting the sword would have meant missing out on the leftovers and flutes. A notification popped up. "Item: Rusted sword has been placed in your bag." Opening her bag, Cynthia inspected the sword. It looked like nothing special, just a worn, old blade. But that deep, unshakable feeling still lingered. An item description appeared. Description: a very ancient sword. Perhaps with restoration, it could unleash incredible power and effects. Cynthia's eyes narrowed. As expected, this wasn't just any sword. The description hinted that the sword could be restored to unlock its full potential. But how would she repair it? Cynthia sighed, shaking her head slightly. There was nothing she could do for now. She'd have to wait and see. She couldn't think of any way to repair swords at her current stage of the game. With a quick thanks to the volcanic ash man, Cynthia stepped outside, only to be greeted by a familiar face, the same child who had once ambushed her among the volcanic ash. Seeing Cynthia, a red exclamation mark appeared above the child's head. "Big sister, did you get that sword? Can I see it?" 2 choices appeared before Cynthia. Yes/no. She hesitated for a moment but then selected yes. On screen, Cynthia's character pulled out the rusted sword and placed it in front of the child. The child eagerly ran their hands along the blade, inspecting it carefully before speaking. "Thanks, big sister. But this sword doesn't look special. The old man said it couldn't melt even in flames. He must be lying." "Hey, big sister, if you bought that sword, maybe you should sell it to someone named Bill in the nearby town. He collects ancient stuff like this. But if you want to get along with him, be careful. He's always hanging around broken rocks, calling them fossils or something. And he laughs weirdly while walking around. It's kinda creepy." Among the child's rambling, Cynthia caught 2 important details. Fossils? Bill? She had never heard of a Bill in the real world. But if he was connected to fossils? A thought suddenly struck her. She turned to the child. "Little one, do you know where this Bill lives?" The child thought for a moment. "He lives in the leftmost house in Fall Arbor Town, but he's usually not home. He spends most of his time wandering around Meteor Falls. Nobody really knows what he's doing there. Dad says he's a mad scientist and that I should stay away from him." Not like you, big sister, you're pretty, so you must be a good person. Cynthia couldn't help but smile at the child's words. She crouched down and gently patted the child's head. Thank you for telling me. You're welcome. After all, you saw through my stealth technique. Next time you come back, I'll be even better at it. With that, the child dashed off, disappearing into the ash. Cynthia stood there, thoughtful. Based on her experience, the red exclamation mark above the child had signaled that the upcoming words and actions were significant. The clues the child provided were likely valuable. If that was the case, then heading to Fall Arbor Town was the next step. She put the rusted sword away and began heading left. 5 minutes later, after defeating a few NPCs in her path, Cynthia reached Fall Arbor Town, a small settlement nestled at the foot of a mountain. Maple trees lined the streets, their golden leaves fluttering in the autumn breeze, creating a serene, picturesque scene. Following her usual routine, Cynthia wandered through the town and stumbled upon 2 items in the sandpit on the bottom right corner. Congratulations! You found an item, Pearl. Congratulations! You found an item, Flame Orb. The pearl was clearly meant for selling, while the flame orb was an item that inflicted the burn status condition on non-fire type Pokémon. To most players, the flame orb would seem like a negative item, but after her recent gym battle, the chat had a new perspective. The godly orb has arrived. Sister Cynthia, want to catch a Pokémon with the Guts ability? I want to see another one-punch knockout. Sorry, Orb-sama, I was talking too loudly earlier. Cynthia eyed the flame orb thoughtfully. A Pokémon with the Guts ability holding it could become a powerhouse. The problem? Most Pokémon with that ability were fighting types, and she hadn't encountered any so far. Her focus was on building a rain-themed team, and fighting types didn't really fit into that. Could there be any dual-type Pokémon that were both water and fighting? After a moment of thought, Cynthia couldn't think of any. She shrugged and decided to hold onto the flame orb for now. Worst-case scenario, she could sell it for a decent price later. She exchanged the items for money at the shop, and her savings hit 50,000. After healing her Pokémon at the center, she continued her journey. Soon, she found a rundown shack with a sign reading Bill's Lab. The place didn't look like a lab at all, more like a junk-filled storage shed. Cynthia knocked on the door, but a notification appeared. The door is locked. No one seems to be home. Just as the child had said, Bill wasn't around. But the child had also mentioned that Bill spent most of his time near Meteor Falls. And, conveniently, Meteor Falls was right where she was headed. With that in mind, Cynthia set off south, leaving Fall Arbor Town behind. Crossing a suspension bridge, she was suddenly blocked by a familiar figure, a middle-aged man wearing a red hat and carrying a fishing rod. He looked exactly like the fisherman from Duford town. Hey, young lady! He exclaimed. I see you're carrying a fishing rod. You must really love fishing. Before Cynthia could respond, the man pulled out a new fishing rod and handed it to her. Here, take this one. Your rod looks outdated. Congratulations! You obtained the item, Good Rod. Description: a fishing rod with better performance than ordinary rods, capable of catching rarer, stronger water-type Pokémon. No need to thank me. I wish you tight lines and no skunked catches. The man waved as he ran off into the distance. Cynthia stood there, confused. When did I ever say I liked fishing? She sighed. Her first fishing experience had been a disaster, but maybe this rod would yield better results. Given her rain-themed team, water types were definitely something she needed. Cynthia stood at the bridge's edge and cast the new rod into the water. A few moments later, the rod jerked violently. She instantly pressed the interaction button to reel it in. A massive blue shadow emerged from the water, accompanied by a loud roar. You encountered a Gyarados, LV45. Cynthia blinked. Not again. This Gyarados was far too powerful to capture right now. Cynthia immediately fled the battle, her team vulnerable to flying types. She fled twice before escaping. The stream chat erupted in laughter. LOL, Cynthia's fishing career is over. Streamer, holy crap, the Gyarados is still chasing me. The creator's on a different level. Who can catch a Gyarados with a fishing rod? Cynthia sighed. She didn't mind the frustration. Gyarados was a powerful water/flying dual-type Pokémon, and one day, when her level cap increased, she'd come back to catch it. Dash. After crossing the bridge, Cynthia encountered a wild Pokémon in the riverside grass. Wild Wing-Ul, LV23, appeared. Perfect. This was exactly the kind of Pokémon she needed. She sent out Ludicolo and used Fake Out, followed by Teeter Dance, then switched to Grovel to weaken Wing-Ul with low-power grass-type moves. Finally, she threw a great ball. The ball shook 3 times before it clicked, and the cheerful capture sound played. Congratulations! Wing-Ul was successfully captured. Cynthia checked Wing-Ul's stats. Pokémon, Wing-Ul. Gender. Type, Water/Flying. Ability, Hydration, cures status conditions during rain. Known moves, Water Gun, Growl, Wing Attack, Water Pulse. Cynthia paused. Hydration? Wing-Ul had this ability in the games, but once it evolved into Pelipper, it lost it. Would this change after evolution? It was a mystery. But honestly, after everything she had uncovered so far in the game, Cynthia just shrugged. This was just another discovery. After all, she'd already encountered legendary Pokémon. A new ability didn't seem all that exciting anymore. Chapter 57, Bill, you came from a fossil. After capturing Wing-Ul and checking its information, Cynthia immediately took action. She began challenging nearby NPCs with her other Pokémon. Luckily, plenty of NPCs were waiting for battles in the surrounding grass. 20 minutes later, after defeating the last opponent, every member of her team had reached the current level cap of 30 except Wing-Ul, which had climbed to level 25. The moment Wing-Ul leveled up, rainbow light burst from its body. Within the glow, its form rapidly expanded, reshaping into a completely different Pokémon. Broad wings. A massive beak dangling in front of its head so large it dwarfed the head itself. The sight was a little comical, but the transformation granted abilities most water types could only dream of. It could unleash torrents of water from its mouth, sustaining the flow for long periods. That enormous beak also served as a storage pouch in the wild, useful for carrying food and other items. With Wing-Ul now evolved into Pelipper, Cynthia first used the interaction feature to congratulate her new teammate. After receiving Pelipper's cheerful response, she immediately checked its abilities. A single line of text made her eyes widen. Drizzle, when this Pokémon enters battle, the weather automatically changes to rain. Cynthia froze. She set Pelipper as her lead Pokémon, switched to the info screen, and ran her character back and forth through the grass until a wild Pokémon appeared. The moment Pelipper emerged, the sky darkened, and rain poured down. Due to Pelipper's drizzle ability, it started raining. Water-type move power increased. Fire-type move power decreased. The chat exploded. Holy crap! Rain on entry? No side effects at all. Don't you need a move to change the weather? What does automatic weather even mean? That's busted. GG, this bird is hacking. While chat buzzed with disbelief, Cynthia's thoughts raced. No wonder. In reality, Pelipper learned Rain Dance so effortlessly, it wasn't a coincidence. This wasn't a learned skill, it was a natural ability. If this was the case, then real-world Pelipper evolving from Hydration Wing-Ul might already possess Drizzle in some form just far weaker than in the game. She quickly dismissed the idea. No, Rain Dance and Drizzle were fundamentally different. Real-world trainers didn't even know Pelipper could have Drizzle. They trained them to use Rain Dance, a long, roundabout method, without realizing there was a direct, effortless alternative. If a trainer instead focused on developing Drizzle, training efficiency could skyrocket tenfold or more. And if cultivated fully, it could work just like in the game. Pelipper enters, rain begins, no energy cost, no delay. That was leagues apart from using Rain Dance mid-battle. Champions and Elite Four members had recently evaluated weather tactics. They agreed weather moves offered huge tactical benefits but with serious drawbacks, massive energy costs and slow startup. Even the best trained Pokémon needed more setup time for weather than for stat boosts. In most battles, finding a chance to use such a move was nearly impossible. But if you skipped that setup stage entirely? If your field was instantly favorable the moment you sent out Pelipper? That was a completely different ballgame. The more Cynthia thought, the more excited she became. And with Drizzle Pelipper, she could make it the heart of a rain team. For now, she kept Pelipper in the lead, battling wild Pokémon to explore the area's species and raise its level. If it was going to enable Ludicolo's swift swim, it had to keep pace with the rest of the team. Thankfully, the game seemed to boost XP for a lone under-leveled Pokémon when the rest of the team was capped. Soon, Pelipper hit level 30, and Cynthia opened its move panel. As a special attack-focused Pokémon, Water Pulse was a natural choice for its stab water move. Lacking any special flying moves, she reluctantly slotted Wing Attack for a secondary stab. The third move, Supersonic for confusion, unreliable at 50% accuracy, but a useful control option. The final choice, Tailwind. In-game, Tailwind doubled team speed for 5 turns. While Ludicolo in Rain hardly needed more speed, Grovel and Beware would benefit, strengthening Pelipper's support role. But then it hit her speed in real-world battles wasn't just a stat. Tailwind plus Swift Swim could push Ludicolo's speed to absurd levels, making it virtually impossible to dodge or counter. And if a team ran multiple Swift Swim users? With Drizzle and Tailwind maxed out? Even Cynthia admitted facing that team would be a nightmare. A tempting thought crossed her mind, should I train a Drizzle Pelipper in real life? But she quickly shook it off. As a top-tier trainer, she chose her partners carefully, each required huge investments of time, resources, and care. In the game, though, no such limitations. She could freely shape her team. Even with the 1-5 Pokémon capture cap, it was more than enough. With Pelipper ready, Cynthia took a deep breath and started toward Meteor Falls only to spot a man at the entrance. Messy-haired, unkempt, muttering to himself as he studied a stone on the wall. These patterns formed from geological shifts about 800 years ago. That means no active fossils in a 500-meter radius, but sedimentary fossils should be here. Pokémon fossils? An absurd thought flashed in Cynthia's mind. Could this be Bill? Before she could decide, the man clapped his hands and released a Primeape. Primeape, close combat that rock. A blinding impact shook the mountainside. Rocks rained down, one rolling to Cynthia's feet. She picked it up. It bore skeletal patterns. You found an ancient Pokémon fossil, sedimentary. Sell for 100,000 yen? Hide it. Cynthia chose no without hesitation and handed it to the man. I wondered where it went. Thank you. He looked at her, blushed, and stumbled over his words. I'm Bill. You're not from Fall Arbor, right? Your clothes, I mean, they're nice. Sorry, I don't talk to people much. Cynthia smiled. It's fine. I'm Strawberry Ice Cream. And you? Bill's eyes lit up. I'm a researcher. I study fossils thousands of years old, the last traces of ancient Pokémon. My goal is to restore their appearance, or better bring them back to life. Cynthia blinked. Fossil revival. Bill explained, sedimentary fossils couldn't be revived, their cells were long dead. Only active fossils, whose cells were dormant, could be restored. She remembered the strange fossil from Granite Cave. Could it be one? Bill pulled out a handheld scanner. The fossil in his hand didn't react, but when he pointed it at Cynthia's character, it lit up green, beeping wildly. Bill's jaw dropped. No malfunction, it only reacts to active fossils. Wait, could it be? Then, eyes wide with shock. My God! You're actually transformed from an active fossil. Cynthia? Chapter 58, Bill's Research Lab. A shocking battle. Seeing Bill standing before her, Cynthia was momentarily at a loss for words. As expected, most researchers tended to have unconventional thought processes. She'd heard that Professor Oak had been like this in his youth, though apparently his eccentricities were relatively mild. Even so, rumors claimed young Oak had done some pretty wild things, like using his Charizard's tail flame to cook barbecue and accidentally burning down his entire house. But now wasn't the time to dwell on that. The fossil revival was what mattered most. Cynthia's eyes sharpened as she used the interact button to pull the fossil from her inventory and placed it before Bill. Is this the active fossil you were talking about? The moment Bill's gaze fell on the fossil, he froze completely. Then, without warning, he threw aside the device he was holding and lunged at it. This is it. This is exactly what I've been looking for. Ah ha ha ha. He sprawled on the ground, clutching the fossil, his excitement erupting in unsettling maniacal laughter completely unlike his earlier demeanor. Several dozen seconds passed before Bill seemed to regain his senses. He looked up at Cynthia, cheeks red, scrambled to his feet, and cleared his throat softly. Miss, you've really helped me tremendously. I've been searching for this for nearly 10 years with no luck. Where did you find it? No, that's not even the important part. This fossil, could you sell it to me? Or I could help you revive it. Please. He pressed his palms together and bowed deeply. Undoubtedly, Bill's request was exactly what Cynthia had been hoping for. She nodded. Please help me revive it. I'd also like to see what this ancient Pokémon looks like. Bill's face flushed red again, this time with pure excitement. Somehow finding the strength, he lifted the half-person tall fossil with his bare hands and dashed toward town. Please follow me. Cynthia quickly followed Bill to a dilapidated little hut. This is my research lab, though it looks ordinary, but the equipment inside is quite comprehensive. Bill set the fossil on the ground and pulled out his keys to unlock the door. The interior immediately surprised Cynthia. Though the wooden hut was small, it was meticulously organized. 7 or 8 pieces of equipment were neatly arranged, with stacks of materials and various texts carefully shelved. Clearly, Bill possessed genuine research capabilities. While Cynthia marveled at the lab, Bill rushed to a massive ring-shaped machine and placed the fossil inside. The machine immediately erupted with thunderous sounds, and data rapidly appeared on a nearby screen. This is the fossil revival machine I developed. It can extract genes and remaining life essence from active fossils to restore the ancient Pokémon's original form, cultivating a new body for it. You might think this is more like creating new life than reviving a fossil. But your fossil is actually alive, I'm just awakening it. As Bill spoke, hundreds of data points completed their display, and a light projection appeared. His face lit up with excitement. Here it comes. The projection gradually solidified. A Pokémon's silhouette became clear, massive, with a fish-like head sporting a terrifying maw, and a lower half resembling an upright dragon-type Pokémon. If this was indeed the fossil Pokémon's appearance, its design was certainly unique. The chat erupted with comments. Ugh, what a letdown after all that build-up. Shouldn't say this, but it's ugly. Respect, it's often the ugliest Pokémon that's the strongest. So you're saying Jinx is strong too? While everyone focused on the Pokémon's appearance, Cynthia thought about its capabilities. Archon, Cradily, and others each had specialized abilities. What about this one? Its cumbersome body suggested strong defense but limited speed. That massive mouth certainly wasn't herbivorous. Perhaps, like Archon, it relied on powerful physical attacks. Bill approached. Though this is my machine's first use, I have complete confidence we can revive this fossil Pokémon successfully. However, the process takes at least 2 days. Cultivating genes and cells into a complete new body is a major undertaking. You'll need to be patient. 2 in-game days would be only a few real-world hours. Tonight, she would finally see all the fossil Pokémon's information. By the way, where did you discover this fossil? After operating the machine and pressing a red button, Bill asked. Cynthia recounted her discovery in Granite Cave. Bill stroked his chin thoughtfully. A cave in Duford town? Given that location's geology, active fossils are possible, but extremely rare. You're incredibly lucky. He cleared his throat and blushed again. About what you saw earlier, could you not tell anyone? Don't worry. I'll keep the fossil revival technology completely confidential. Bill waved his hands quickly. No, I meant how I looked when I first saw the fossil. I was just too excited. I'm usually gentle. Gentle? Really? Cynthia recalled the child's description of Bill at the glass workshop entrance. That big brother is scary, he randomly starts laughing maniacally. Big sister, be careful. Faced with Bill's sincere gaze, she could only say helplessly. All right, I believe you. With the fossil now in the machine, Cynthia remembered her other reason for visiting Bill. I heard you research ancient artifacts too. A red exclamation mark appeared above Bill's head. You know about that? Yes. Before fossils, I collected ancient objects and studied their history. Do you happen to have some treasure? Without hesitation, Cynthia pulled the rusted sword from her inventory. I got this from someone else. Could you examine it? Bill picked it up carefully, eyes lighting with excitement. If I'm not mistaken, this sword can't be melted, right? Cynthia was stunned. How did he know? Bill adjusted his glasses. That's because it's forged not from iron, but from a mineral called Galar particles, extremely rare, from the snowy mountains of the Galar region. Cynthia paused at the unfamiliar region name, but Bill continued. It's incredibly durable, with a melting point so high that only special methods can forge it. And its second characteristic. Bill swung the tattered blade several times. It emitted a faint, audible humming sound. Objects forged from Galar particles can serve as a conduit, forming a space to seal Pokémon inside. That sound came from the seal. I've only read about this stone in ancient texts, I never imagined I'd see it. Bill's explanation carried weight. It took Cynthia a moment to process. So there's a Pokémon sealed inside this sword. Bill nodded, photographed the sword, then handed it back. Yes, though other possibilities exist, dangerous items, or something else. Breaking the seal requires repairing the sword and unlocking the ancient seal. The techniques are lost, and the contents could be dangerous. Treat it as a collectible. But the moment Bill finished, the sword leapt from her hands and smacked him on the head. Ow! Bill cried, eyes wide in terror. Holy crap, this thing's alive! There's a ghost! The sword slapped him again, and he stumbled. It performed a triumphant loop in the air before returning to Cynthia's hands. Suddenly, a dazzling blue light blazed across the screen. The screen went black. Another cutscene was coming. This time, it opened with an apocalyptic vision, a crimson sky torn by ominous purple light. A massive skeletal dragon Pokémon loomed over a ruined city, hundreds of meters tall. Its deep purple and red body radiated black energy, devouring light. Twisted claws tore the void, the earth groaned under its pressure. Purple mist corroded everything it touched. Cries and screams rose, then were silenced by its roars. Even Cynthia froze, eyes wide. What is that thing? Then, a point of azure light pierced the darkness. A Pokémon clad in ancient armor, resembling a majestic lion, held a golden giant sword in its jaws. Facing the dragon, its black eyes held only resolve. Roar! The dragon unleashed a mountain-piercing beam. The blue Pokémon charged straight through it, sword glowing, splitting the beam in two. Golden and blue light intertwined, purifying darkness. The cutscene froze at that climactic moment. The light faded. The stream chat was silent, the comments blank. Cynthia sat frozen, her rapid breathing reminding her of reality. Cold sweat soaked her back. She realized what she had witnessed, a battle between two legendary Pokémon. And these were no ordinary legendaries. Their power and presence were immense. Then she noticed the crucial detail: the golden giant sword the blue Pokémon wielded looked exactly like the rusted sword in her hands. Chapter 59, Chimney Mountain, Team Magma. After a few moments, Cynthia finally reorganized her thoughts. It seemed the sword she'd obtained, called the rusted sword, had deep connections with that blue Pokémon she'd just seen. Otherwise, this sword wouldn't have shown her such visions. So, could it be that what's sealed inside this sword is that blue Pokémon? Or perhaps, that purple entity? Cynthia couldn't help but frown slightly. Undoubtedly, the difference between these two possibilities could be described as night and day. At this moment, the light emanating from the rusted blade had dissipated, slowly settling back into Cynthia's hands and returning to stillness, as if it had never moved at all. Speaking of which, according to Bill's explanation, to release whatever was inside this sword, she'd need to break the contract seal on it, simply repairing it wouldn't work. But the item description for this sword told her that as long as she could repair it, she'd be able to unleash its original power. From this perspective, couldn't she first try repairing the sword, then decide whether to break the seal based on the situation? Besides, this was a game after all, not reality. She didn't need to be overly cautious. If you're going to be timid playing a game, then it's not really playing anymore. Moreover, the shock those two Pokémon had given her was simply too great. Taking such a risk to obtain more intelligence about those two Pokémon was clearly worth it. With this thought, Cynthia finally made her decision and turned to address Bill nearby. Did you see what just happened? Bill paused, shook his head, and rubbed his head with a grimace. See what? Of course, I saw it. That broken sword just whacked me hard on the head. There's a bump now. It seemed Bill hadn't received the visions the sword had provided to Cynthia, that was exclusive to her character. After brief consideration, Cynthia asked. You mentioned earlier that this sword's material is called Galar particles? If I wanted to repair this sword, do you have any ideas? Bill paused at this, then immediately shook his head. Sorry, I only happen to know about this mineral and its crafting techniques, but what specific technology would be needed to restore it? I really don't know. Hearing this, Cynthia felt somewhat disappointed. She'd hoped to get some information from Bill. However, there seemed to be a glimmer of hope, At this moment, Bill pointed at the sword and spoke again. Hey, you're not planning to repair this sword and release whatever's inside, are you? I'd suggest you don't. Look at how it acted just now, whatever's locked in there is clearly no good. But the moment he finished speaking, the sword in Cynthia's hands suddenly flew up again, emitting what sounded like an indignant hum as it shot straight toward Bill. This time, Bill learned his lesson, shouting as he bolted without hesitation, rushing right out of the room. The rusted sword spun a circle in the air, returning somewhat sullenly to hover before Cynthia. A light emanated from its blade, forming an arrow symbol pointing in a certain direction. Seeing this, Cynthia paused and looked down at the rusted sword. Are you guiding me to repair you? The rusted sword seemed to understand her words, bobbing up and down as if nodding. Cynthia thought for a moment, pressed the interact button, and spoke gently in explanation. I do plan to repair you, but I have more important things to do right now. I'm sorry. The sword's light immediately dimmed. Cynthia quickly added. But if possible, I'll definitely find a way to fix you, please give me some time. The rusted sword fell silent for a moment, then bobbed up and down as if nodding. It seemed to reluctantly accept Cynthia's proposal, flying back to her hands and becoming still once more. Watching this scene, Cynthia appeared thoughtful. With this sword's guidance, there would surely be corresponding repair methods waiting for her to discover. Since that was the case, she needn't worry about this matter anymore, she'd take it one step at a time. She carefully stored the rusted sword in her inventory and turned her gaze to the machine in Bill's lab. In a few hours, this fossil would successfully revive into an ancient Pokémon. To be honest, this should have been quite shocking for her, but compared to the visions the rusted sword had just provided, Cynthia suddenly felt this didn't seem like much. She couldn't help but sigh slightly, this game really kept refreshing and challenging her worldview. Come to think of it, she'd originally thought this game's creator only knew about Rayquaza and other legendary Pokémon from the Hoenn region. But now it seemed their knowledge of legendary Pokémon probably far exceeded her own as a mythology expert. With this thought, Cynthia shook her head slightly and left Bill's research lab. Bill was currently shivering outside, and upon seeing Cynthia emerge, he backed away several steps, looking afraid of getting hit by the sword again. Only after confirming the sword in her arms had disappeared did he finally breathe a sigh of relief. It even hits people, that thing's way too petty. I only told a few truths. But speaking of which, if you want to repair that sword, you could try going to the Galar region to see if you can find that mineral to patch it up. The Galar region. This term's reappearance immediately caught Cynthia's attention. Bill nodded, yes, that's right. This region is located northwest of our Hoenn region, extremely far away. There aren't many shipping routes open currently, but you could try taking a ship from Lily Cove City to look around. Remember, this stone is only found in the snowy mountain ranges of northern Galar, nowhere else has it. Well, good luck, and remember to come back later to see your fossil Pokémon. After speaking, Bill fled back into his house without looking back. Cynthia silently noted this region's name. The Galar region. She guessed this must be a special area the creator had invented for the game. Surely there couldn't really be a continent called the Galar region in the real world that hadn't been discovered yet? That seemed quite impossible. After bidding farewell to Bill, she continued toward Meteor Falls. According to Cynthia's original expectations, since Meteor Falls was mandatory story content that specifically mentioned Team Magma being there, she figured there'd definitely be a difficult battle ahead. To prepare, she'd already leveled her entire team to the current level cap. However, what happened after entering Meteor Falls was unexpected. When she hadn't walked far toward the left side of the cave, she saw a researcher in a white lab coat surrounded by a group of men in Team Magma uniforms, who roughly and forcefully snatched a box from him. Then these Team Magma members just left without looking back. Cynthia immediately approached and talked with the dejected staff member to learn the specifics. Those Team Magma thugs tricked me into coming here and stole my most important possession, a meteorite from outer space. Damn it, what do they want it for? I need to report this to the League right away. A meteorite? Cynthia immediately caught this keyword, frowning slightly. Just then, 7 or 8 people in dark blue uniforms ran over from the other side of the cave, surveying the situation and addressing the researcher. We heard Team Magma's thugs came here for their evil scheme, where are they? The researcher paused at this. He pointed toward another direction in Meteor Falls. They stole my meteorite and said they were going to empty chimney. The Team Aqua leader slapped his thigh, showing regret. Damn, Looks like we're too late. Brothers, let's pursue them. As soon as he finished speaking, the Team Aqua members disappeared en masse into Meteor Falls, and watching this scene, Cynthia fell into thought again. From the current situation, though she didn't know what they wanted that meteorite for, Team Magma apparently had their own plans and schemes. Now there was good news and bad news. The good news was that Team Aqua at least seemed to be opposing them rather than working together. But the bad news was that Team Aqua also had their own agenda, neither side was really the good guys, they were just enemies of each other. So next, she should go to MT Chimney to see what exactly Team Magma was planning. Cynthia's eyes sharpened as she turned and left Meteor Falls. When Cynthia returned to the cable car entrance outside Fiery Path, sure enough, just as she'd expected, the two Team Magma characters who'd previously blocked the way were gone. She successfully boarded the cable car and quickly reached the summit of MT Chimney. MT Chimney was quite a tall volcano in the Hone region, with large amounts of flowing lava ready to erupt at its peak. The volcanic ash Cynthia had seen in those grass patches came from this great volcano's past eruptions. At this moment, the chat in her stream was quite active with discussion. What's Team Magma doing taking a meteorite up a volcano? They're not planning to blow up this volcano, are they? I don't know, and besides, what's the connection between blowing up volcanoes and meteorites? These dark organizations always do incomprehensible things, we'll see soon enough, right? Cynthia was also pondering. The previous game content had revealed the tip of Team Aqua's plans, and Team Magma's objectives would probably soon be revealed too. Just after exiting the cable car, Cynthia heard chaotic battle sounds nearby. She moved her character forward to look and discovered Team Magma and Team Aqua members were actually fighting with their Pokémon. Such scenes extended continuously from the mountain base up toward the summit, dozens of people in red and blue uniforms were brawling. Not only were their Pokémon battling each other, but these members were engaging in close quarters combat themselves. The scene was quite chaotic. This chaotic situation undoubtedly provided Cynthia with a convenient opportunity as she carefully maneuvered her character to quietly climb up the mountain. After walking a while, Team Aqua members became fewer and fewer. Finally, when she'd climbed halfway up, a Team Magma member stationed there noticed her arrival and charged forward to challenge her. Boss said this is the most critical moment, no one's allowed near. This NPC's Pokémon weren't particularly strong, and Cynthia easily defeated them in under a minute. However, as she continued upward, more Team Magma NPCs kept challenging her. Each NPC seemed slightly stronger than the last, but fortunately, Cynthia's current team configuration included 2 Water-type Pokémon, while most of these Team Magma NPCs used Fire-type Pokémon, so she handled them quite easily. Most importantly, the newly added Pelipper would further weaken these Fire-type Pokémon's strength when Rain Dance was active. Cynthia didn't even need Ludicolo to battle, she fought her way through and successfully reached the mountain's peak. What met her eyes was a huge lava pool with deep red molten rock violently churning within, white steam continuously rising with intense heat. In front of this lava pool stood a burly figure in a red Team Magma uniform. His eyes were incredibly calm, with an aura of strength, arrogance and confidence showing in his expression. But upon closer observation, one could detect traces of deeply hidden ruthlessness. Intuition told Cynthia this guy was no ordinary person, he probably held an extremely high position within Team Magma. But just as she was thinking, that man seemed to notice her presence. He stepped forward, his deep voice reaching her ears. "Little one, how did you get here? This isn't a place for you. Wait, if you're standing here, that means you've gotten past my subordinates. However you managed it, that's something worth appreciating, seems you're a talented youngster. In that case, I'll make an exception and give you a privilege. Let me introduce myself, I'm the leader of Team Magma, Maxi." Cynthia's eyes immediately sharpened. The League had definite information about who led Team Magma, it was indeed this Maxi. But she hadn't expected to encounter him here. The next moment, Maxi's voice rang out. "Listen well, I formally invite you to join our organization, Team Magma. Our plan is to let flames and lava spread across the entire Earth, swallowing the oceans, ultimately creating a brand new civilization in the fires. How about it? Interested?" As he spoke, he extended a hand toward Cynthia. Cynthia's expression became somewhat complicated at this moment. As the champion of the Sinnoh League, she'd been invited by Team Aqua's boss while playing this game, and now, after just meeting Team Magma's boss, she was being invited to join again. At this rate, if she encountered Team Rocket's boss next, would she get an invitation too? Faced with Maxi's proposal, two options suddenly appeared before Cynthia in the game. Accept/decline. Her eyes immediately sharpened. What did this accept button mean? Could she actually join Team Magma if she chose it? She was genuinely surprised. She hadn't expected the game's creator to even include such side content. Honestly, Cynthia was quite tempted at this moment. If she joined Team Magma in the game, wouldn't that mean she could obtain more materials and information about Team Magma? Though the real-world Team Magma was high-profile and committed every evil act. But recently, for some reason, their activities had been getting quieter, even starting to fade from view. The League's information on Team Magma was actually quite limited, hardly comprehensive. With such a good opportunity before her, how could she refuse? So after brief consideration, she chose accept. Maxi, getting this answer, applauded. Very smart choice. Joining us. You'll never regret it. Together we'll forge a new nation in the flames. But soon, his tone shifted. However, to verify your loyalty, I need you to do something now. Maxi gestured toward the churning lava pool beside him. Take out all the Pokémon you have and throw them in along with their Pokeballs. After joining us, you won't need these weak creatures anymore. An excellent trainer like you deserves much stronger partners. Two buttons appeared before Cynthia again. Yes/no. But this time she didn't hesitate for a moment and chose no. Even in a game, she couldn't accept throwing her Pokémon into lava. This was a trainer's fundamental principle that absolutely could not be crossed. Even though this action naturally meant losing the opportunity to join Team Magma in the game and rejecting Maxi's invitation. Seeing this, Maxi's voice instantly turned cold. I thought you were supposed to be smart. But now it seems you're no different from those fools in the League. In that case, let me show you the cruelty of reality. Stirring music rang in Cynthia's ears as countless Pokeball icons slid across the screen. Battle erupted in that instant. Chapter 60, The Battle of MT Chimney. Am I streaming myself? However, what happened next caught Cynthia completely off guard. The one facing her wasn't Maxi, but another Team Magma elite officer in uniform. Clearly, as the Team Magma leader, Maxi had no interest in battling a mere child like her and simply delegated the task to his subordinate. Of course, this design made perfect sense in the game. How could a rookie trainer who just started their journey go toe-to-toe with the boss of a criminal organization? As Cynthia pondered this, the battle began, and her Pelipper was automatically sent out as her lead Pokémon. The Team Magma member across from her threw out a Pokeball, and the next moment, a turtle-like figure appeared before her eyes. This Pokémon had a hard shell, 4 sturdy legs planted firmly on the ground, and steam continuously rose from the holes protruding from its back shell, as if its body contained extremely high temperatures. The opponent sent out Torkoal LV35. The notification popped up. Keep in mind, Cynthia's current team had a level cap of barely 30. The level difference between them was a whopping 5 levels. Yet facing this challenge, neither Cynthia nor the viewers in the live stream seemed particularly nervous. Given this game's difficulty, under normal circumstances, a 5-level gap would definitely be quite hard to overcome. But after their previous experiences, they knew clearly that every member of Team Magma used Fire-type Pokémon. With weather effects boosting her team, her 2 water types would completely counter them, easily making up for that 5-level difference. At this moment, as both Pokémon took the field, Cynthia directly clicked Water Pulse without hesitation to attack, officially starting the first turn of battle. A strange blue energy emanated from Pelipper's body, the sky instantly turned overcast, and heavy raindrops began falling. Pelipper's drizzle ability activated, it started to rain. This was rainy weather. Under these conditions, all Fire-type moves would have their power greatly reduced. Pelipper already resisted Fire-type moves, so under these circumstances, the threat was naturally even smaller. Torkoal was practically crippled in terms of its stab attacks. But the next moment, something completely unexpected happened. Deep crimson light began swirling around Torkoal's body, shooting straight into the sky. The previously overcast sky instantly cleared at this moment. Brilliant sunlight replaced the falling raindrops, enveloping the entire battlefield and both Pokémon in scorching radiance. Torkoal's drought ability activated, the weather cleared up. Fire-type move power increased. Water-type move power decreased. This sudden turn of events not only stunned Cynthia but also had viewers in the chat spamming question marks. Holy crap, Dude, who are you? You're hacking too. Torkoal, you started it first. Mom, how did my weather get stolen? At this moment, Cynthia's eyes sharpened with focus. Another weather ability. She should have thought of this earlier. Since Pelipper had the drizzle ability that could directly change the surrounding weather to rain, then sunny, sandstorm, and snowy weather should all have corresponding abilities too. For trainers wanting to develop weather-based teams, this was undoubtedly an extremely important hint for the real world. Perhaps there were many more Pokémon with weather abilities in the real world, waiting to be developed and discovered. Returning to the game, Cynthia immediately understood the weather system's mechanics. Torkoal's speed was undoubtedly slower than Pelipper's. It seemed that in this game, when two Pokémon with weather abilities appeared simultaneously, the slower one would have weather priority. Torkoal's entrance allowed its drought ability to seize control of the field's weather, directly reversing what should have been a one-sided situation. With both Pelipper and Ludicolo's water-type moves having reduced power and being unable to one-shot their opponent, the overwhelming advantage of that ridiculous level 35 immediately showed itself. Just like that, Cynthia undoubtedly lost her first battle. But soon, she started her second attempt. This time, having understood the weather mechanics, she successfully avoided Torkoal using Drought to steal weather priority in the first turn by choosing Beware as her lead. Then she found an opportunity to switch to Pelipper to activate Drizzle, and finally used Ludicolo with its Swift Swim ability to finish the battle. Strictly speaking, this was Cynthia's first perfect battle utilizing weather abilities since obtaining Pelipper. As that Team Magma Elite was defeated, the game exited the battle interface. A hint of surprise crossed Maxi's face, which then disappeared, replaced by a cold expression. It seems your talent is even greater than I imagined. Too bad you chose to refuse joining us. Since you can't be used by me, then disappear into ashes along with your Pokémon. With that, as tense music played, Maxi raised one hand, revealing a deep red Pokeball. Even though this Pokémon hadn't been released, it still emanated a powerful, terrifying aura that made everyone's heart skip a beat. But at this critical moment, a silver-white figure burst through the clouds, diving down from the sky. Along with it came an angry shout. Stop! The newcomer was none other than Hone champion Steven, carried by a Skarmory. Maxi's expression changed as he looked up at the figure in the sky. Without hesitation, he threw out another Pokeball, and a Charizard appeared. Maxi jumped onto Charizard's back, and it spread its wings, breathing brilliant flames directly at Cynthia. In the sky, Skarmory's figure suddenly accelerated, becoming a silver lightning bolt that blocked Cynthia's path. A deep blue barrier suddenly materialized in the air, completely nullifying the scorching flames. However, when the smoke from the flames cleared, Maxi and Charizard had already disappeared into the sky. As Team Magma's leader, he might not be afraid to clash with Steven, but engaging in battle would mean getting delayed. Here, League reinforcements would arrive quickly, making the situation greatly disadvantageous for him, so naturally, he didn't dare linger. The game perspective switched to the sky above, where Maxi looked down at the volcano below, his face tense, lost in thought. After a long while, he carefully took something from his chest. It was a deep red circular crystal contained in a black box, continuously radiating scorching heat waves and temperature, even distorting the air around it. The black box containing it seemed made of special materials, otherwise, it would have been reduced to ash under such high temperatures long ago. Maxi stared deeply at the red crystal and murmured. Never mind. Even without that meteorite, with this, our plan can still be achieved. Just wait, the day when flames ignite will come soon. With his words, Charizard spread its wings upward, carrying him away into the clouds. Watching this scene, Cynthia appeared thoughtful. Instinct told her that the red crystal she'd just seen was probably no ordinary object either. But what could it be? What relationship did this thing have with Team Magma's plans? Clearly, these questions wouldn't have answers anytime soon. Meanwhile, the game interface switched back to MT Chimney, where Steven jumped down from Skarmory's back and asked with concern. Strawberry ice cream, what are you doing here? Are you alright? I just received a message saying Team Magma was conducting evil activities and plans here at MT Chimney, so I rushed over immediately. Looks like I arrived just in time. By the way, how did you end up facing Maxi? Did you defeat his subordinates? I didn't expect you to grow so quickly. I knew I was right about you, but remember, don't be so reckless next time. None of these dangerous guys have kind hearts. Alright, I need to chase after him. Take care of yourself. Steven spoke quickly, then jumped back onto Skarmory, took flight and disappeared into the clouds. At the same time, chat messages began flooding the live stream. Champion Steven is such a good guy. First, giving evolution stones, now showing up at the critical moment to save the day. Truly worthy of being Hoen's champion, so professional. I heard the real-world Steven is like this, too. Although he's obsessed with stones, when it comes to doing his job and protecting people, he's very responsible. So what exactly is Team Magma trying to do? They don't seem like they just want to make volcanoes erupt, right? Don't really get it. Didn't he just say something about setting the whole world on fire? But that seems like an exaggeration, right? While everyone was discussing, Cynthia suddenly noticed there was actually a machine beside her. Earlier, Maxi had been standing in this direction, his imposing figure blocking its existence, which was why Cynthia hadn't noticed it. She immediately moved her character forward and was surprised to discover that at the very top of this machine sat a deep black stone. What's this? A notification popped up before her eyes. This appears to be the meteorite Team Magma stole. Do you want to take it? As Cynthia selected yes, the rumbling machine suddenly stopped, and the meteorite was placed in her bag. However, as it entered Cynthia's item inventory, this time the game didn't provide the usual information tooltip for the item, but instead showed a red border. Above the border was a note. This meteorite seems to have some kind of familiar symbol carved on it. Below the note were 3 rows of symbolic text. The moment Cynthia saw these characters, her eyes immediately sharpened. Because these characters were exactly the same ancient script she had deciphered back in the rock tunnel. However, unlike the rock tunnel, these symbols had different content. Cynthia could only rely on her previous translation experience to barely understand part of their meaning. She unconsciously spoke aloud, softly reading out some of the content. In legend, rules over. When land and sea fall into chaos. Appears. That was all she could currently understand. What did land and sea refer to? Appears. What would appear? From such limited information, it was naturally difficult to determine anything. But Cynthia wasn't anxious, because ever since she had sent that ancient script data to the archaeological research team, they had been working intensively to study the meaning of this ancient writing. She believed it wouldn't be long before they achieved further breakthroughs. When that time came, she just needed to send this text to them to get a more detailed translation and figure out exactly what the information on this meteorite was saying. With this thought, Cynthia put the meteorite back in her pocket. Whether it was her imagination or not, ever since she removed this meteorite from the machine, the boiling lava in the lava pool ahead seemed to calm down and was no longer violent. At this moment in the game, Cynthia understood that the Team Magma side quest had temporarily come to an end. So next, she should be able to challenge the next gym, Lava Ridge Gym. She controlled her character and walked down empty chimney. Meanwhile, in a certain villa in Cerulean City, Kanto region. Kairos stretched long and looked at the deep purple Pokeball icon displayed on his screen, then glanced at the time in the bottom right corner before leaning toward his microphone. Brothers, the $0 Master Ball Challenge run is complete. Streamers signing off now. Since today was his day off and he didn't need to work on the game, Kairos had simply started streaming and played Battle Road. Since this game's battle system increased points earned after consecutive wins, after his 46th consecutive victory, he successfully reached his target rank, Master Ball, with a 100% win rate. This winning streak naturally brought massive popularity to his stream. At this moment, his viewer count had reached as high as 250,000, which was already considered quite a large audience tier even on the entire streaming platform. Now, as Kairos spoke, countless chat messages began frantically scrolling across the screen. Don't leave, bro, you've only been streaming for 1 afternoon. Play 2 more games, just 2 more. Right, streamer, I'm begging you. Not seeing your stream every day makes me feel like ants are crawling on my body. Today you finally stream for a while, how can you be so brief? I haven't learned enough toxic strategies yet, streamer. If you leave, whose strategies am I gonna watch to be toxic? Sorry, I mean to climb ranks. During today's Battle Road gameplay, Kairos had naturally used all the limited configurations available, trying every possible strategy variation. He had to admit that Battle Road players' skill levels really weren't high. Even Sub-Protect Toxic, a strategy that was already overused in his original world, still helped him win several consecutive matches. After playing all day today, Kairos was honestly getting a bit bored. It was fine at first, but after playing more, he realized that this Battle Road game's experience wasn't even as good as Scarlet/Violet's ranked battles. After all, in this game, not only were many Pokémon missing, but abilities, items, and even move pools weren't complete. If not for his previous system mission and the promise he'd made to these viewers about reaching Master Ball rank, he wouldn't have played this long. With this thought, Kairos closed the game window and spoke again. "Brothers, I'm really not streaming anymore." But just then, a red paid message suddenly caught his attention. Big Tongue _love seaweed, streamer, you're so talented, why not try other games to make a name for yourself? Playing Battle Road and stomping noobs every day is boring. How about this? I'll recommend a game that's guaranteed to be fun, called Pokémon Emerald. Give it a try. As soon as this message appeared, the viewers in the live stream naturally burst into laughter. I second this motion. Strongly recommend the streamer try Emerald, it's really interesting. If you want to see the streamer suffer, just say so. Don't beat around the bush. The guy above is talking nonsense. Emerald really is a good game, relaxing and fun to play. My kid loves it, already bought 2 copies, and will keep buying more. GG, these people are all trolls. Looking at the flying comments, Kairos was stunned for a moment, then suddenly froze as he realized something. Right. How had he not thought of this? If he was going to stream, why play garbage like Battle Road when he could play the game he made himself? Nobody knew that this game was actually his creation anyway. He just needed to show off a little game knowledge, and the emotion points would come flowing in. Moreover, as his stream audience grew larger, it could also serve as promotion for Emerald. This was one of the most effective marketing methods. As Kairos pondered, seeing him silent for so long, the stream viewers got a bit anxious. Streamer wouldn't be scared, would he? Makes sense though, that game's really difficult. Even Cynthia gets stuck on it. Bro, just try it out. I'll pay for the game if needed. Darka tipped the streamer a luxury sports car worth 20,542 yen. Holy crap, big bro, you're confused. With that money, give it to me and I'll play for you to watch. Looking at the flying comments, Kairos's mouth curved into a slight smile. He moved his mouse away from the close stream button and, under everyone's watchful eyes, opened his browser and typed 7 characters. Pokémon, Emerald.
Thanks for listening.